Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was neglected by his family, and Hinata, Ino, Temari, Yugito, Anko and Samui fell for him part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Kushina smiled at her husband, Minato, her eldest son, Arashi, and her twin daughters, Mito and Narumi approached their home. The family were coming back from a small family vacation. They had decided to go to the beach and relax. They had all had fun together. Watching Narumi and Mito bury Minato in sand and then use a sweeten jutsu to wake him up made her giggle. The eldest Arashi got distracted while water walking and was taken out by a wave. It was a true family vacation in her opinion. As they walked through the village they noticed people smiling and bowing towards them. She noticed some girls giving her son flirty smiles and glared at them. She looked at her 3 children and smiled warmly at them. Her eldest Arashi standing at 5 feet 11 and wearing his jonin vest over a long-sleeve blue shirt and blue Anbu-style pants and black shinobi sandals. He was the upcoming second yellow flash of Konoha, had blonde and blue eyes. He was a spitting image of his father. Her daughters Mito and Narumi, known as the princess and heroes of Konoha for being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. They were both a spitting image of Kushina with their vibrant red hair and violet-colored eyes. Mito took after Minato in personality, being calm and collected, while Narumi took after her. Kushina couldn't help but giggle knowing Narumi raised hell and had a short temper. Kushina let out a small smile remembering how Hiruzen Sarutobi gave his life to split the Kyuubi in 2 and sealed in the twins. Now, normally, one would think that a cage wouldn't leave their village. However, such a thing happens all the time in the villages. In this case, the cage would select someone to take care of things while they were gone. In this case, Tsunade Senju, one of the legendary Sannin, was the most suitable to watch over the village while he and his family were away on vacation. The family of 5 walk up to their house and stopped. Sitting on the front porch with a book in hand was the middle child Naruto Namikaze. Out of 3 siblings he was different, sporting his father's bright blonde with natural red streaks going through, making it look like untamed fire blowing through the wind. He gently set his book down and looked at his family. His bright crimson red eyes that would put any ruby to shame were looking at them. So how was your vacation? He asked casually. Kushina and the others give a look of confusion to each other. Naruto, were you here the whole time? Asked a surprised Kushina. She could have sworn her son was with them on the family vacation. Naruto looked back at his book. Of course I was. It doesn't surprise me anymore. You leave me behind on every vacation, then you come back and act surprised that I wasn't with you. Then we go into a discussion where you say, but Naruto, why didn't you say anything? So I decided that I wouldn't be shocked anymore. Naruto says while going back to his book. Minato, being shocked about what his son had just said, couldn't hold back his questions. Why didn't you say anything? You should have said something to us. Naruto looks up at him. Can we not have this conversation again? Naruto groaned out knowing his dad would say that again like he always does. If you don't have any more questions I'll be going back to my book, it's quite interesting. Makumi-chan recommended it to me and I have to say she has good taste in literature. Naruto says smiling. Minato went silent. Not only is he unable to come up with anything, but neither Kushina, nor the kids were able to come up anything as well. They were shocked that their brother was so casual about this, it was like he didn't care anymore. Naruto nods at the silence. Figures you 5 wouldn't have anything to say about this. He says while taking a sip of his. I have people who can testify that I didn't go with you on your vacations, because every time you go on vacations I always end up taking missions. Not that I'm complaining or anything. The missions are fun, especially my latest mission. It went from AC to S rank and I even got to meet Koyuki Kazuhana. He says with a blush on his cheek, remembering how she had been his first kiss. Not many could say their first kiss was from a princess and famous actress. He looked at his family again and cleared his throat. In fact, the head librarian at the library can tell you that Makumi-chan had me check out this book yesterday. It's a really good story about a hero who was neglected by his family as a child, who was neglected at a young age. He was tempted by darkness but was able to overcome it and save Ho's world. I highly recommend that you all read it. I'm just about done. He went back to his book while Minato, Kushina, and the kids just stood there awkwardly. They were looking at the last member of the family they had all completely forgotten about. Naruto noticed that they're just staring at him, and let out a sigh and he put his book down again. What's wrong? Why didn't you say anything to us? Asked Kushina. In the earlier years, whenever I would try to say something, you all would just shoo me away and say, "Sorry, Naruto, I'm busy, come back when I'm not busy." Thus, in the later years, I just figured that I wasn't welcomed on these vacations, so I didn't bother anymore. Is there anything else, or can I go back to my book? I really want to know how this story ends. Minato is in disbelief. That's ridiculous. Of course you're welcomed on these vacations. We're a family. Besides, we always hold a family meeting to plan the vacations. So why didn't you say anything? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Family meetings. What family meetings? The meetings in which I call everyone to the living room so that we can talk about family-related problems and vacations. A look of realization came over Naruto. Oh, so those must have been those times you would call everyone except never bothered calling me down when you had these meetings, so I figured you didn't want me involved. He said while picking up the book again and went back reading. The rest of the family went silent. They realized that he was right about the meetings. None of them were able to remember him being in any of those meetings, and both Minato and Kushina couldn't recall ever calling him down for said meetings. They were jolted out of their thoughts when Naruto suddenly snapped the book shut. Finished. I gotta admit, I didn't expect that plot twist. Looks like Makumi-chan was right. He said while standing up and stretches. Now I just got to return the book to the library and take Makumi-chan in a date before I leave. He whispered the last part to himself. They watched as Naruto walked off towards the library. The rest of the Namikaze family look at each other shocked and surprised. Emergency family meeting. Namikaze living room. Okay. The situation is that Naruto feels like he isn't part of the family. We need to make him feel like he's part of this family again. Minato said while pacing back and forth before sitting down. One thing's for sure, we need to remember to take him on vacations, says Mito. Arashi nods. We need to remember him, period. When was the last time any of us really interacted with him? We used to be close when we were younger, but that changed when I entered the academy. I didn't have as much time for him anymore. With missions and training we drifted apart. Hell, I can't even remember the last time he called me Ni-san or even asked me for help with his training. Arashi said out loud while trying to remember the last time he spent time with his younger brother. Minato sighed. With me it's kinda obvious, being Hokage didn't give me time to spend with him. I mean, I have a whole village to run and that takes up a lot of my time and energy. I spent my time helping the twins with controlling the Kyuubi's power and training them to be the best kunoichi they could be. We were busy spending time with our friends, and training. I mean, during the academy he wouldn't say anything to us. I never saw him with anyone besides Makumi. Narumi said while Mito nodded in agreement. Really? That's the best excuses you all can come up with. Have to say I'm not surprised. I mean, come on, at least come up with better excuses. All of them turned their heads when they heard Naruto's voice. They were shocked to see him leaning up against the wall. When did he get here and why could I sense him? Were the thoughts of all 5 Namikaze members. Naruto, I thought you were returning that book to the library. Kushina asked in a shocked voice. I had a shadow clone do that. I wanted to see what you 5 were up to when I left for the library. I must say your excuses are laughable and pathetic. He says while shaking his head. What do you mean? Minato, I said while glaring at him. Since you spoke up. Dear father, I'll start with you. Naruto said while walking behind Minato's chair. You use the Hokage excuse only when it comes to me. When Mom, Arashi, Mito, or Narumi need you for something, that excuse mysteriously disappears. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, nor what day it is. When one of those 4 need you, you go to them, and when I need you, you're busy. The last time I asked for your help was 7 years ago, that was for Fuinjutsu. Now I'm a level 6 seal master and I'm only a chunin. He replied. Naruto walked over to the couch, where Arashi, Mito and Narumi were sitting. Now for my dear siblings, the same applies to you, Arashi. Whenever I needed you for something you were busy with your ninja training, but when the twins needed your help, you would drop whatever you were doing to go help them. Did it never even occur to you that I may have needed help with my own ninja training? It's funny how my training never got in the way of helping out my only friend. He looked over at the twins and shook his head. Mito and Narumi, the princesses and the heroes of Konoha. Your excuse only covers the times when you're not at the house. What about the time when you're in the house? Some of it is used by your training with mom, that is true. However, what about the rest? You prefer spending time with Arashi, since he's the cool and strong brother. Why would you want to spend time with the weak and lame brother? Naruto walked over to the remaining chair in the living room, where Kushina was sitting, and she had a look of utter dread. And finally, we come to you, mother. Your excuse of training the twins only covers their training when they were old enough to be trained. You didn't spend every second of every day training them, so what about all that remaining time? You had plenty of time to spend with me, but you would find other uses for it, such as spending time with your own friends, or with one of the other members of this family. I mean, I don't blame you, since you were probably embarrassed of your weak son. When I asked you to train me in Kenjutsu, you said I didn't have the talent for it. But did you know that Yugao sensei said that I was a natural in Kenjutsu? The truth is that I am not wanted here. I'm not a fool. I mean, look at the living room. 2 chairs, and a couch for 3 people, perfect for a family of 5, not 6. He gestures to the dining room. The dining room, where 5 spots are set up every day, even though there are 6 chairs, and 6 members of the family. Notice how only 5 of the chairs are present. The 6th was broken 6 years ago and never repaired or replaced. Someone had to learn how to cook for themselves at a young age, and I have to say I'm a pretty good chef. Naruto walked over to the front door with a katana strapped to his back. Kushina watched him, her eyes full of guilt. What made the whole situation uncomfortable was that Naruto didn't even raise his voice once. He was speaking with a calm voice the entire time. They were hoping for him to yell and shout to show some kind of emotion so they could at least know how he felt. He wasn't angry, mad, or anything like he was only stating facts. They were broken out of their thoughts by Naruto speaking again. So, I'm going to give you your wish, the one thing you all seem to want so badly. What are you talking about? Asked Kushina with fear in her voice. You should look at my ninja records. I mean, I'm in the bingo book, which surprised me. I guess I even impressed the fire daimyo enough that he personally asked me to become one of his 12 guardians for 3 years. I accepted and I'm leaving today. You can't go. You're too young. You're only 13. Yelled out a shocked Kushina. Technically, once I put on this headband, I legally became an adult in the eyes of the shinobi world. Old enough to kill, old enough to make my own decisions. Kushina turns to her husband. Minato, stop him. You're the Hokage, can't you do anything? She yelled with tears in her eyes. Minato looked away in guilt. I'm sorry, Kishimoto-chan, but I can't do anything, my hands are tied. He already sent his reply, and if I tried to stop him, the daimyo would have me removed from the position of Hokage. Unless I have a good enough reason to stop him from going, like if he lost a limb or if he was mentally unstable. Naruto shrugged his shoulders at Minato's response. I don't see why you're so against this, Kushina. You don't seem want me here, so I'm doing everyone a favor by leaving. That's not true. I do want you here. Please, give me a chance to make this right. I promise to train you, I'll even give you attention. She cried out. You should know that I hate pity, it's disgusting. You've had 8 years to be a mother to me, and you failed. There is nothing you can do to change that now. I'm not interested in being part of this family anymore. You should know that I switched my last name to Uzumaki. Besides, you have your perfect family of 5. Naruto says while looking at her. I've taken up too much of your time. Goodbye, Lord Hokage and Lady Namikaze. Thank you for giving me a place to stay for all these years, but I've dragged out your hospitality for far too long. Naruto walked through the door and closed it behind him. Kushina stood there, frozen in shock, before falling back into the chair, sobbing. Hearing how she has failed with Naruto had broken her heart, but hearing him call her Lady Namikaze has shattered it completely. She didn't even feel Minato's arms wrap around her, as he tries to comfort her. The remaining 3 kids just remained sitting on the couch, each of them in different degrees of shock and guilt. They didn't know what to say. Their brother not only changed his last name but basically said he didn't view them as family. Broke their heart. How far have they fallen? Village gates. Naruto was walking towards the village gate. He was wearing a crimson-red shirt under his chunin flak jacket with a pure black katana strapped to his back, his black Anbu-style pants were tucked into his black steel-toed combat boots. He checked his kunai and shuriken holster, making sure they were full. As he made his way to the north gate, he saw another person standing there and looking bored. Mikumi Nara was the twin of Shikamaru. She took after every Nara in pure laziness when not in a fight. He noticed she was wearing her chunin vest over her clan jacket and was wearing blue Anbu pants, and black shinobi sandals. Her black hair was let down as they draped over her shoulders, her gentle gold eyes were looking around as she was checking her surroundings. So you finally showed up. I've been here for 10 minutes waiting for you, you're so bothersome. She yawned out with a pink hue on her cheeks while looking away from him. Sorry, I had to take care of some stuff before I left and now I'm ready. Naruto says while smiling at her. Then let's head out. It's been 3 years since they both left home, 3 years since he last saw his family, and 3 years to help him mature. I'm glad we're coming back home. I know for a fact it's been boring and bothersome to be doing all of those missions. Yawned out a girl with raven black hair and gold eyes. She was standing at 5 feet 5, maybe 100 pounds give or take. She was wearing a green chunin vest over a blue long-sleeve shirt with hidden armor stitched in between the fabrics. Her long hair now being held in a high ponytail, her blue Anbu style tucked into her black kunoichi heels. She had a white sash around her waist with the kanji for fire on it. A black quiver was strapped to her back while a necklace hung from her neck with a ring connected to it. The ring itself was simple yet elegant. The ring was pure black with red, yellow and black diamonds on it. A red Uzumaki swirl and a gold Nara symbol could be seen on the side of the ring. You always say that, Mikumi, said the male teen walking next to her. Standing at 5 feet 11 with bright yellow and red hair that looked like untamed fire with matching crimson red eyes stood Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the middle child of the fourth Hokage and the red-headed demon. A black long-sleeve shirt could be seen under his chunin vest with a pure black katana strapped to his back. His black Anbu-style pants tucked into his steel-toed combat boots. A black chain could be seen hanging from his neck with a black ring connected to it. A red Uzumaki swirl could be seen adorning one side of the ring with a gold Nara symbol adorning the other side. A white sash with the kanji for fire could be seen attached around his waist as he stretched his arms above his head. So should we hide the rings? Asked Mikumi as she gently played with her ring and smiled at it warmly. It meant a lot to her and it was something that she knew wouldn't ever regret. He was perfect for her and she was perfect for him. Yay, I think we should until we can our families about our decision, and besides I don't want my Ka-chan to kill me just yet for not inviting her to our wedding. Naruto says smiling at his wife while holding her hand gently. My family didn't know about it either, Naru-kun, and I have to agree your mother would definitely kill us and I think my mother would beat you with a frying pan. Mikumi giggled while laying her head on Naruto's shoulder. During his time as a guardian, Naruto had a lot of time to think about how he treated his family and sent them a letter apologizing for their last interaction. He knew it wasn't only their fault and he was to blame as well. He could have spoken up and asked if he could come around, plus it didn't hurt that Mikimu had beaten him with a frying pan, saying that he was acting like a spoiled brat who didn't get his way. He had sent letters to his mother the most since she felt the most guilt for failing as a mother. She had profusely apologized to him, begging for his forgiveness and asking for a second chance. He had told her multiple times that he had forgiven her and that he was to blame for acting like a spoiled brat. Mikumi's words, not his. Newt's away, Naru-kun. He heard, pulling him out of his thoughts. I'm sorry, Haim, what was that? He asked in embarrassment. Sigh, I said we're 10 minutes away, you bothersome blonde. She said with a smile on her face as she lets out a yawn. I'm part blonde, my shadow princess. He teases out while kissing the top of her head in a gentle manner. So should we run on ahead or do you wanna continue walking? How about if you give me a piggyback ride and I sleep? She smiled, seeing him roll his eyes, knowing he'd give in for his princess. Fine, get on, Haim. Naruto says as he stopped and got lowered down enough for Mikumi to get on. He could feel her smug smile, knowing she could get in a 10-minute nap from being carried. 10 minutes passed quickly and Naruto starting nudging Mikumi awake. Hey Haim, it's time to wake up. Naruto whispered in her ear, smiling as he heard her mumbling, 10 more minutes. He smiled warmly at her as his prankster side got the best of him and dropped her on the ground as she woke up glaring at him. I'm going to get you back, you blonde prick. She said, glaring at him for interrupting her nap. Yay. Yay, whatever you say, Haim. He smiled and helped her up. You know we're gonna have to keep our rings hidden not only from our family but from our friends too. She said as they signed in with the Eternal Gate guards Kosetsu and Azumo. Yay, it's gonna be hard to sense knowing Ino she's going to want to drag me and the other girls to the hot springs since we came back. She groaned out. She loved her childhood friend, but sometimes Ino could be too much to handle for any person. Don't worry, you'll figure it out. He replied cheekily. So are you going to see your father first? Hokage Tower. 10 minutes ago. Minato Namikaze, also known as the Yellow Flash, was sitting at his desk filling out his paperwork. Today was the day his son Naruto was supposed to return and he couldn't wait to see him. How much has he changed? Did he get taller? Had he gotten stronger? Were the thoughts going through his head while he set his pen down and standing up? He looked up and a woman in her mid-30s walked in. Her glowing red hair and violet eyes would stun anyone. Her jonin vest covered her crimson red long-sleeve shirt and her black anbu pants were tucked into her kunoichi sandals. When will he be here, Mina-kun? Asked the red-haired woman. He'll be here in 10 minutes, Kushi-chan. He said, smiling at her. It's been 3 years since we last saw our son and so much has happened. She said, smiling. Did my little Naru-chan her taller? Was he eating healthy? Did he talk back to the daimyo? Does he have a girlfriend? Kushina thought to herself. The last one was what she wanted to know the most since she knew Arashi had gotten married to Hana Inazuka about 2 years ago. Let's go, Mina-kun, I wanna see our son. Kushina practically beamed as she jumped out the window, not being able to contain her excitement. As both Minato and Kushina were walking towards the village gate, they were waving back to civilian and shinobi alike. They noticed a familiar set of red and yellow hair that seemed to be untamed and flow like fire. Naru-chan. Kushina yelled out as she tackled her son. With Naruto and Mikumi. Are you going to see your father first? Mikumi asked her husband. Naru-chan. Could he heard throughout the village as a red missile tackled the young man to the floor. Hi Ka-chan. Naruto said warmly as he returned his mother's hug. He could hear his mother softly crying into his vest as she held onto him like her life depended on it. Kushi-chan, you should let our son get up. Minato chuckled out seeing his wife tackle his young son. Mikumi smiles at the warm scene before her and smiled warmly. Hey Naru-kun, I'll see you tomorrow at our old training ground so we can train together. She said, smiling at him, and shushined away. So Ka-chan, any chance of you letting me stand up? He smiled at the red-headed woman in top of him crying. The red-headed woman just held on to her baby boy who she missed so much. I missed why yo you Naru-chan. Kushina cried out as she buried her face deeper into his vest. Naruto looked at his mom and couldn't help but smile warmly at her and shushed himself so they'd be standing up. I missed you to Ka-chan. I missed all of you a lot and I hope all of you can forgive me for my actions before I left. He whispered as he rubbed her back. The civilians and ninja who were passing by couldn't help but smile warmly at the mother and son duo. Many of them knew what happened when Naruto left and how much it broke Kushina. They had remembered how close they were and noticed them slowly drifting apart. But to see them so close again brought a smile to their faces, knowing the mother and son duo had mended the fence. You must be hungry, Naruto. How about we treat you to dinner and we can catch up? I'll even bring your sisters and brother along too. Minato smiled warmly, knowing Kushina needed this the most since she was suffered the most and was depressed for almost 2 years until they had gotten Naruto's first letter via a lion summon. When they read the letter, they were shocked that Naruto was apologizing to them, and they immediately wrote back saying they were the one at fault and he shouldn't be the one to apologize, that they should be apologizing to him. I'd love that too, San. Ka-chan and I will meet you at Ichiraku's. He said, smiling at him as he watches him disappear in a yellow flash. Let's head out, Ka-chan. Naruto said with a warm smile on his face as he shunshined them to Ichiraku ramen stand. Ichiraku ramen. Arriving in a swirl leaves Naruto and Kushina day down, and that's when it happened. How tall are you? Have you been eating healthy? How was your training? Did you get enough sleep? Were you sleeping on your back or stomach? Do you have a girlfriend? Kushina bombarded him with question after question. You know, Kara-chan, you should really slow down when you're talking. That was one giant run-on sentence. Naruto chuckled out while his mom flared at him. Naru-chan, you will answer these questions right now. Kushina said, giving him a smile that screamed danger as her hair started moving on her own in the form of 9 tails. Well, it wouldn't be fair for the other 4 now, would it, Ka-chan? He teases out loud, making her pout. Fine, we'll wait for them. Kushina pouted. Just as Naruto was about to open his mouth, he felt 2 bodies jump on his back. Naruto Nisan. The voices shouted out together, making Naruto's face hit the counter. Oh, Naruto said with a deadpan look while his sisters give him their signature foxy smile. Wow, you got taller, Nisan. I remember we were taller than you before you left, now you're taller than us. Narumi pouted. It's not fair, I mean, what's next? Makumi is gonna be taller than us too. Mito pouted next. As that little Naruto came a feminine voice, making Naruto turn around, seeing his older brother and his wife walk towards them. You're Kiba's sister Hana, right? He asked, hoping he got it right. That's right, pup. She said, smiling at him. So you two got married. So who asked who? Hana forced me to take her out on a date. Arashi mumbled out loud as Minato sat next to Naruto. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Naruto replied with a smug smile, knowing exactly what his brother had just said. Hana forced me to take her out on a date. Arashi's sweat dropped, while everyone started laughing. Nara compound. After Makumi had left her husband to spend time with her family, she sunshined in front of the Nara compound, making her smile warmly, knowing she missed her own home. She made her way through the compound towards her home. As soon as she saw the door, she could hear her mother yelling, Shikamaru, wake your lazy up. Yelled out Yoshino. Oh, how she missed her home. Walking up to the door, she opened it and took off her kunoichi heels. Kara-chan, Tu-san, Shika, I'm home. Makumi yelled out as she made her way to the kitchen as she heard a pan drop to the floor. Miku-chan, is that you? Yoshino asked with tears in her eyes. She knew her daughter was coming home today but didn't know when, since she wanted to surprise them. Hi, Ka-chan. Troublesome, you're back. Shikamaru yawned out with a small smile on his face since he missed his younger sister. Missed you too, bothersome Nisan. She smiles as she sat at the table, laying her head down and falling asleep. She was glad that she and Naruto had decided to hide their wedding rings, since they were trying to figure out how to tell their families that they were married to one another. So how was being a guardian? Shikamaru asked while laying his head down on the kitchen table. It was bothersome, but Naruto made it enjoyable. She muttered out while closing her eyes to catch a nap. Yoshino looked at her daughter and couldn't help but smile warmly at her. She walked up behind her and kissed her head, letting her children nap. She walked out of the kitchen and turned the lights off and headed upstairs to wake her husband up to let him know their daughter was finally home. Makumi had just gotten home. She and Naruto had snuck out early in the morning and were able to spend some alone time together. He made her breakfast and they even went to go visit their late sensei's Grace and saw his son and his wife Yugao. They even bought him some ninja toys and helped Yugao out as much as possible. Naruto even offered to babysit so Yugao could go out on missions and spend time with her friends. He's going to be an amazing father. She said out loud while laying in her bed to get some sleep. Makumi, you have a visitor. Came the sound of her mother's voice. Bothersome. She muttered out and slowly got out of bed, making sure to hide her wedding ring and head downstairs. She didn't have to wonder who it was since she could hear her visitor's voice. What do you want, Ino? Makumi yawned out and laid down in the couch to try and sleep. The girls and I are taking you out for a day of relaxation and you're coming with us or I'm going to bug you until you agree. She said, smirking, knowing that she'd have her way since her childhood would give in. Of course she's going with you, Ino. Yoshino said from the kitchen while giving her daughter the try me stare. Bothersome. I just got back home too. I mean, I went to go visit Sensei's grave and then his wife and son with Naruto. Can't I just sleep to relax? She pleaded out while Ino ignored her and grabbed her arm. Nope. Now let's go. Ino shouted in excitement. Bothersome. Muttered out Makumi as she put in her kunoichi heels. See you later, Ka-chan, Yoshino-chan. Yelled out Ino and Makumi. See you girls later. Oh, and Miku-chan, I'm spending today with Kushi-chan so I won't be home till later, so make sure your father and brother do their chores. Yoshino shouted out. Hi. So what are we doing today? Asked Makumi while looking at her red and yellow nail polish that she applied earlier today to tease Naruto. Well, we're meeting the girls for some lunch at the Akamichi barbecue grill, then some shopping, then the hot springs. Ino replied with a smile on her face. Bothersome. Akamichi Barbecue. Ino and Makumi finally arrived and she couldn't help but smile when she saw her friends and former classmates. She also took notice of the sandy blonde Suna Kunoichi Temari was with them and found it kinda funny, especially with Tenten demanding a rematch and Temari blowing her off. You came. Hinata said with a smile on her face after seeing the last two members arrive. Yay. I was going to take a nap but the loud blonde had to come grab me. Makumi replied while sitting across from Temari. I guess laziness does run in the family. Temari teased while looking at her crush's sister. I'd reply with an argument but it's too bothersome. She yawned out while placing her order, making the girls laugh. So where were you earlier? Sakura asked while looking at the Makumi. They had gone to her house in the morning to take her out to breakfast but her litter said she wasn't home. Naruto and I went to go visit sensei. She replied with a small sad smile. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Sakura said, hoping she'd forgive her. Temari has a small look of guilt run through her eyes knowing that her sensei had killed her sensei before the invasion. It's fine. Besides, we also bought Yugao sensei's some groceries and we also bought their son some ninja toys and books. Naruto-kun even offered to babysit Hayate Jr. today so sensei could spend time with her friends. Makumi said with a faint blush on her cheek. She remembered seeing how well Naruto was with kids and had sometimes wondered how their kids would turn out. How is Naruto-kun doing? Hinata asked with a blush in her face. She had always had a crush on Naruto and was wondering how she'd tell her crush that she loved him. He's doing fine. He's going to taking Hayate Jr. out today, so that means the park, food and maybe the hot springs. Yugao sensei threatened to kick his if he started training her son. She giggled remembering how Yugao threatened her husband with bodily harm if he started training him. I intend to keep my promise too. Came a voice from behind as making them turn around. Oh hey Yugao sensei, Kurenai sensei, Crazy Snake Lady and Hana. Makumi greeted them. Hello semi-lazy brat. Anko said with a chipper in her voice and plopped down next to Makumi. How's your fiery-haired teammate? You know I miss his blood very much, maybe I should go visit him again. Anko teased out while spinning a curved kunai that she named Standby. Anko-chan, please leave my brother-in-law alone and leave the girls alone too, they're trying to relax. Hana said while apologizing to the younger Kunoichi. It's fine Hana-san, besides we don't mind if you join us. Ino said, hoping to get some juicy gossip from the Namikaze bride. Are you sure we don't want to disturb you? Kurenai replied. We don't mind Kurenai-sensei, besides we could always use advice from more experienced Kunoichi. Hinata replied with a warm smile. As the older Kunoichi sat down, Ino started bombarding Hana with questions. So how does it feel to be married to the Red Flash? How was your honeymoon? Can I be the godmother? Is Naruto single? Ino asked question after question, making the other girls sweat drop, especially Mito and Narumi. Will you ever stop hitting on our brother Ino? Mito asked out of curiosity. He's too much of a catch to not hit on. I mean, have you seen him? His wild, fiery, untamed hair and his bright crimson eyes that seem to glow at night. Ino drooled out a bit, making Narumi shake her head while she and Mito blushed. Ah, do the Gaki-chans have a brocon for their brother? Tease Anko. I mean, I saw how you two would glare at any girl and scare them off if they tried to talk to the Gaki. What no to that's your crazy we you suck. Both twins sputtered out with blushes on their faces, making the other girls laugh. Makumi had just rolled her eyes and shook her head. Oh, how she wished people would leave her husband alone. At least it can't get any worse than this. I mean, it's not like some Kunoichi is going to challenge him to a marriage duel. She thought to herself while listening to Anko tease the princesses of Konoha. Nadeshiko Village. Jiraiya, we have finally found you. You're going to uphold the deal you made with the former leader of Nadeshiko. Word has gotten out that you have 2 new apprentices. A Kunoichi said while glaring at a white-haired man, making him sweat. Well, yay, but they're both females, but my former apprentice does have a son who's 16 and he's single, he. Jiraiya awkwardly laughed out, hoping they'd let him go. What's his name? She said while glaring at him. Naruto Namikaze. He paled, knowing both Kushina and Tsunade were going to make him suffer for offering up Naruto-like candy to a baby. With Naruto. Naruto was walking through town with Hayate Jr. on his shoulder while the 4-year-old was smiling and playing with his hair. As he was walking by, girls civilian and kunoichi alike would look at Naruto with a blush on their faces and wave at him. So buddy, what should we do today? He asked while looking up at his young companion. Ha, told you I'd find him, Shika. Came a loud voice from behind Naruto, making him turn around. Oh hey guys, what are you up to? He asked them. We were looking for you and wanted to train since you've probably gotten stronger, but you're still the dead last to me and I know I can easily beat you. Kiba boasted, making the others shake their heads. I'd love to train but I can't. I offered Yugao sensei that I'd babysit her son and I promised her I wouldn't train while I had him with me. Naruto said with a smile on his face. Besides, we were about to go get some lunch, you can join us if you want. He offered. Let's go get some barbecue. Choji shouted in as they followed right behind him. With Mikumi. She was entertained. She found it funny how Ino and Hinata were arguing over whose win over Naruto's heart. They were bugging Narumi, Mito and Hana about information on her teammate and husband. So Mikumi, what was the craziest thing you saw while being a guardian? Yugao asked, hoping to change the conversation, making the other girls pay attention. Mikumi paled at the question. There was one thing that still haunted her to this day from her time being a guardian. The blood that she saw coming out of one person still haunted her dreams to this day. Well, are you going to tell us? Tenten asked. Her curiosity was poking, wanting to know. Naruto almost died in my arms, the blood just wouldn't stop. I was scared that he'd die if help didn't arrive. When it did, I know for a fact that he'd be dead right now. She whispered out with voice void of emotions. Everyone was silent, no one expected this. They knew the Guardians took dangerous missions, but to hear that the son of the Hokage almost died shocked them to their core. Is that why Ni-san sent those letters apologizing to us? Mito asked. She always found it weird that her brother, who claimed that his family was dead to them, was apologizing for the unfair treatment he was given. Mikumi nodded her head. Yay, he said that he felt empty and cold when he was bleeding out. He said that if or when he died, he didn't want to leave behind any bad blood with anyone. He wanted to let you guys know that he was sorry for how he left things and that knocking at death's door was his wake-up call. She said, not looking up at them. She still felt guilty for what happened. Why didn't he tell us? Narumi said with tears forming in her eyes. He didn't want to worry any of you guys, since he knew you were busy training with Jiraiya, and didn't want you guys getting distracted. She lied. The real reason was because even after help arrived, it was touch and go, and Naruto did die for a minute before she used a ration jutsu on him, bringing him back to life. What happened? Hana asked, not knowing that her brother-in-law had almost died. The Akatsuki happened. We had a run-in with Itachi and Kisame, and before we knew it, we were having to fight. Luckily, Naruto was able to send out a summon asking for backup, but Itachi almost killed Naruto. Mikumi said with anger in her voice while clenching her fist hard as her knuckles turned white. She could feel her nails digging into her palms. What happened to Itachi? Sakura asked, since she knew Sasuke wanted to kill him. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Mikumi practically shouted, making the other girls flinch. They had never seen her act this way and it kinda scared them. Yash, I accept your challenge, Choji-kun, and if I can't eat more food than you, I'll climb the Hokage mountain 6,000 times, with 2 boulders tied to my feet. Shouted a young man dressed in a green leotard with orange leg warmers. Lee inside voice. Came the voice of one Neji Hyuga. Sorry Neji-kun. Lee laughed while rubbing the back of his head. Mommy. I see mommy. Nana, I wanna see mommy. Shouted a voice of a young boy, making Yugao turn her head and smile seeing her son run up to her with Naruto in tow. We'll say hi to your mommy, then I'll order you some food and I'll even buy you some dessert, alright Hayate? Naruto said with a warm smile on his face. He looked up and noticed the sad atmosphere. Who died? He asked, not knowing Mikumi had told them the story of how he almost died. Apparently you almost died. Came the angry voice of his sister Narumi, making him flinch. Well, so you know. It was more of a statement than a question. I'm not hungry anymore, Mito said while glaring at her brother, making him sigh. He was hoping to keep that a secret and never let his family know that he was technically pronounced dead for a full minute before Mikumi brought him back to life with her Ikazuchikan Thunder Fist. It was truly an eye-opener for him, letting him know that his life could end as quickly as any other shinobi or kunoichi. They weren't invincible, he had learned that the hard way. He watched as Narumi ran after her sister and the other girls left. Makumi, we'll meet you at the hot springs. Ino shouted out after they each paid for their food. Makumi just nodded and looked at her husband with tears in her eyes. She knew she shouldn't have told them, but she also knew that he'd never tell anyone, and it was slowly eating him away. She wanted him to talk to someone, but he always refused. I'm so sorry, Naru-kun. I know I shouldn't have said anything, but I know you wouldn't have told anyone else, and I want you to talk to someone about this, please, for me. She said, but whispering out the last part so only he could hear. She wanted to hug him badly, but knew that they had to keep their marriage a secret from everyone. If it means that much to you, I'll talk to someone about it. Watashi no Kage no Ojo. He smiled warmly at her and gently wiped away her tears with a napkin, making her smile. You should get going, they're probably waiting for you at the hot springs. Naruto said with a warm smile on his face as he watched his wife shunshin away. Hot springs. Makumi was the last to arrive and headed inside. She stripped down and wrapped a towel around her body. The towel greatly enhanced her curves. She had tucked her necklace in between the valley of her cleavage, thanking Kami that it was perfectly hidden. She walked out to the hot springs and sat down looking at her friends. I'm sorry for not telling you sooner, Narumi and Mito. Makumi said while sitting on the edge of and letting her feet in the warm water. It's fine, Miku-chan, we were just shocked. We weren't expecting something like that, and we were mad at Ni-san for keeping something like that a secret from us. Mito said while wiping away tears from her eyes. I say we all just relax. Hana said while sliding into the hot spring to relax. Hey, so when did you get a necklace? You've never been one for jewelry ever since I met you. You said, and I quote, jewelry is too bothersome to wear. Ino pouted. Don't worry, it's too bothersome to talk about. Yahoo! The water feels great, guys. Hiba shored from the male side of the hot spring. Hiba, calm down. Shikamaru said in a tired voice. Looks like the guys are here. Ino said with a mischievous grin. Oh, the blonde Gaki wants to go peeking on the male side. Anko teased out. Shino, keep your bugs away from me, and Lee, stop trying to wrestle me, god damn it. Naruto shouted from the male side. Now I really wanna see what's happening on the other side. Hey Hinata, use your Byakugan and see what Naruto is packing under that towel of his. Ino said with a perverted grin, making Hinata blush. Can you leave our brother alone? Narumi and Mito said in an annoyed voice while glaring at the perverted blonde girl. I'm not being perverted, I'm being adventurous. Ino practically shouted. We can hear you. Naruto shouted out, making Ino blush in embarrassment. Stop listening in on our conversations, you pervert. Ino shouted. Naruto, where's my son? Yugao asked, hoping he didn't bring her son to the hot springs. Don't worry, Yugao-sensei, my mother is watching over him with the other moms. When she heard that Kiba wanted to head to the hot springs and she didn't want him tagging along, so she took him with her. Naruto replied. Naruto slowly sunk into the water with his wedding ring in his hand and sliding it around it back so the guys wouldn't see. Hey Naruto, how did you get that scar on your chest? Choji asked. A large scar could be seen adorning his chest. The scar was long and deep. It started from his left hip and ended on his right shoulder. It gave him a bit of a mysterious feel. I got this during my first year as a guardian. I almost died that day. It opened my eyes, letting me know that we aren't invincible and that we could die at any given moment. Naruto said while slowly rubbing his scar. His muscles flexed every time he touched it. It was a reminder about what happened when he got overconfident. Itachi made sure of that. His scar not only caused him to die, but it brought him and Makumi closer together. As soon as he was able to leave the hospital, they immediately got married. She had never left his side his entire month in the hospital. She truly loved him and he loved her even more. It's been 4 months since they returned and a lot has happened since then. Her husband having to rescue Gaara after he was captured by the Akatsuki and had his Biju extracted and coming back to life thanks to Chiyo. Makumi herself had gone on a mission with her husband Takiri to talk to the new Mizukage maid Terumi. Her eyebrow twitched when that hussy had the ovaries to hit on her husband in front of her. Negotiations took an awkward turn when she used her shadow possession jutsu on her and made her sign the paperwork. Makumi was walking home after watching Hayate Jr. for Yugao sensei while she went on a mission. She even bought her some groceries and toys for her late sensei's son. The thought of having her own child with Naruto made her blush. It wasn't like she and Naruto never talked about having a kid. They've talked about it multiple times and even planned on having a family in the future. She smiled when she walked past a baby clothing store and couldn't help but imagine how her and Naruto's baby would look like it, who they'd take after. My black hair with his red streak, my gold eyes with a mixture of our personality. Mikumi thought herself while having a small smile. She, just like every other Nara, were lazy and always wanted to sleep. The fact when she was around Naruto made her smile. Whenever he was around, she always had energy to keep up with him. Bothersome husband, she whispered to herself with a small smile while walking inside her house to see her mother smiling while her father looked like he had just lost an argument. What's happening here? Mikumi yawned out while taking off her kunoichi heels and sat on one of the chairs and brought her knees up to her chest and started to drift off to sleep. We're going on a family vacation with Kushi-chan and her family, Yoshino said with a happy smile on her face while Shikaku let out a low groan. Troubling. Shikaku groaned out before his wife hit him on top of the head with a frying pan, making Mikumi giggle as memories came back to her from her times doing that to Naruto. Will Naruto be coming? Masumi asked, hoping that he'd be a part of it so they could spend some private time together while wiping away a trickle of blood coming from her nose. Of course he's coming, he actually picked the vacation spot. Kushi-chan said that we're going to Tasuki no Kuni. Yoshino smiled with stars in her eyes, then sending a quick glare to her husband. I also demand to be taken on a date, you lazy asshole, Yoshino said, making Shikaku shiver in fear. Troubling wife and her demands. Shikaku groaned out but agreed nonetheless, making Yoshino smile. So when do we leave and does Shika know? Mikumi yawned out, wondering if she had time to buy herself some clothing for her husband in private. We'll be leaving in 3 days, since Naruto-kun comes back from his mission tomorrow, and yes, I told Shika about it this morning, Yoshino said while smiling at her daughter. I'm going shopping, Mikumi replied while standing up and putting her heels back on. I'll come with you then, we can spend some mother-daughter time together, Yoshino said, smiling at her daughter, seeing her eyes brighten up at the thought of mother-daughter bonding time. I'd love that, Ka-chan, it's been a while since we spent some time together, Mikumi replied with a smile on her face. She missed spending time with her mother and it made her smile. With Naruto. It's been a while, Sasuke, Naruto said with a smirk on his face while looking up at his ex-classmate, while two Chunin with Naruto were ready to attack at a moment's notice. Dobi, and here I thought you died after fight Itachi, you should know only an Uchiha can beat an Uchiha, Sasuke replied with an arrogant smirk on his face. So Pitamaru didn't tell you everything during my fight with your brother? Naruto asked with sadistic smirk on his face. What are you talking about, Dobi? Sasuke growled out while glaring daggers at him with his Sharingan. It's true that Itachi almost killed me, but what your master didn't tell you is that I took something of his in return. It was fun watching as my wind blade cut his arm clean off, but what made it even better was when Mikumi told me how she hunted him down and shot an arrow through his eye. It's a shame that it didn't kill him, Naruto said, smirking sadistically while pulling out his katana and activating 2 seals on his wrist, making what looked like 2 leather bracelets appeared on his arms that seemed to cover up to 4 inches of his wrists. How dare you? Itachi is mine to kill. No one besides me is allowed to kill him. His death will be at my hands, Sasuke roared while activating his curse seal. I'll kill you, Namikaze, Sasuke shouted while activating his Chidori. It's so easy to manipulate his emotions, Naruto thought to himself while releasing his gravity and restriction seals on his body. Before Sasuke could react, Naruto was immediately behind him, slowly sliding his katana back into his sheath. A blade could be seen coming from Naruto's right wrist as it retracted back into his wrist guard. Blood shot out from Sasuke's right eye and the wings on his back were sliced clean off, making him fall to the ground in pain as his curse seal reverted back to its seal. My hidden blades are coated with a strong paralysis poison that when it enters the bloodstream it starts to attack your nervous system, Naruto said while walking to the Uchiha. I'll KK ki kill yo ud do, Sasuke said before falling into unconsciousness. Let's place some chakra restriction seals on him. Also make sure his arms and legs are tied up tightly. Check him for weapons and anything else, Naruto commanded, making the 2 Chunin nod as Naruto grabbed the Uchiha's katana. If he wakes up before we make it back home and tries to escape, kill him. I'd rather have a dead Uchiha than a live one. I doubt he'll wake up before then, but if he does, end him if he tries anything, Naruto said, making the two Chunin nod their heads, stripping the Uchiha of his weapons visible and hidden. We've stripped him of all his weapons and placed the seal on his forehead, Naruto-san. One of the newly minted Chunin replied as Naruto looked over the new Chunin's work. The wire is a bit loose, but it's easily fixable. Here, I'll show you. Naruto said while fixing the wires while showing the two new Chunin the proper way to tie up a prisoner. Thanks you for showing us this, Naruto-san. You'd definitely make an amazing Jonin teacher. Both Chunin replied, making Naruto blush in embarrassment. Thank you, Hihi. Naruto said in an embarrassed voice while rubbing the back of his neck. Now let's head home, Naruto said with a smile. With Mikumi and Yoshino. Mikumi was having fun. It's been a few years since she was able to spend some alone time with her mother and she missed it. So Mimi-chan, do you have a crush on anyone? Yoshino asked, calling her daughter by the nickname she gave her when she was young. Damn, I can't tell Ka-chan, I married Naruto-kun. Mikumi thought to herself. No one that catches my interest. Mikumi faked yawn while the mother-daughter duo walked into a clothing store. How about Kiba? He's a bit rough around the edges, but he'd be a good boyfriend. Yoshino said, smiling at her daughter. No, Kiba isn't my type. Mikumi replied while going through some bathing suits and finding one that caught her attention. Naru-kun will definitely love this. Mikumi mentally smirked to herself. How about Shino? He's a bit quiet, his bugs do scare me. I could always set up a date with you and Choji. I know Fuka would love to see you and her son on a date. Yoshino said with a smile on her face, as she made plans to set up a date for her daughter with Fuka's son Choji. Ka-chan, why are you so intent on setting me up on a date? Mikumi asked while placing the bathing suit on her arm and finding a new pair of heels and arrows. Well, sweetie, it's because I want some grandkids. I'm not getting any younger, and Sum-chan and Kushina-chan are already expecting their first grandchild. Don't worry, I'll talk to Fuka-chan and set up a date between you and Choji when we get back from our vacation. Yoshino replied, making her daughter groan out. She knew she had to tell her mother about her marriage with Naruto soon so she could avoid this. Maybe I should tell her during the vacation, she'd be relaxed. Mikumi thought to herself. Ka-chan, I do. Mikumi began before they heard shouting outside. Namikaze-sama brought back Uchiha-sama. A civilian shouted out, making the ninja glare as the civilian-loving Uchiha. Naru-kun's back. Mikumi smiles while quickly paying for her stuff and running outside to see her husband. Mikumi, hold on. Yoshino shouted, getting annoyed that her daughter ran out. Oh, how she was going to introduce her daughter to her frying pan. Village gate. Naruto and his team made incredible time with Sasuke being unconscious. It was easy to carry him back to the village. Add to the fact that Orochimaru didn't send any of his men after them did worry him a bit. As they walked through the village gates, a civilian saw them carrying in the Uchiha. Namikaze-sama brought back Uchiha-sama. Shouted a random civilian as he ran off. Sai, take the traitor to Ibiki for questioning. I'll take care of the debriefing. Naruto said while watching them nod and shunshin away. Naru-kun. A voice shouted out, making him smile warmly while looking at his wife run towards him with a smile on her face before stopping in front of him, seeing that she couldn't kiss him. Hey Shadow Princess, how was your day? Naruto said while smiling at her. Well, I went shopping with my mom and it was fun, and she's going to set me up on a date with Choji. I think we should tell her, Naru-kun. Mikumi pleased. We'll tell her during the vacationer, have to make sure to do it where we have witness so Ka-chan doesn't murder me. Naruto chuckled nervously. Mikumi, Nara, why did you run off? Came the voice of one pissed off Yoshino. Nara. Tasuki no Kuni. They had arrived to Tasuki no Kunai a few days ago and everything was going fine. Arashi and Hana were spending time together. They've been inseparable ever since they found out that they were having a baby a month ago. Minato and Shikaku were relaxing while Mito and Narumi were dragging Mikumi around, making her groan since she wanted to spend time with her husband. She looked over her shoulder and saw her husband and brother laying in the sand enjoying the warm sun of Tasuki no Kunai, making her smile. Kushina and Yoshino were talking about random stuff and Yoshino had told Kushina how she had set up a date with Mikumi and Choji, making Kushina squeal like a schoolgirl. Now if I can find someone to set up Naru-chan with, I mean it shouldn't be too hard to find him a girlfriend, but at the same time I don't want some hussy to sink her claws into my sweet innocent Naru-chan. Kushina pouted, making Yoshino giggle. Don't worry Kushi-chan, I know for a fact you'll find a good girl for Naruto. Humo, how about Fina's daughter Ino? Yoshino asked while looking at her childhood friend. Ino. Well, she's certainly bossy, headstrong, definitely reminds me of Fina when she was younger, and plus when she wants something she won't take her mind off of it. Kushina said with a smile on her face. Don't you think it's weird that you're trying to set up a date for Nisan? Mito asked while sitting down next to her mother and Yoshino while Narumi sat next to her twin. What happened, wasn't Makumi with you? Yoshino asked while looking over at her husband and son playing shoving. Yeah, but she said she forgot something in her room so she went by herself. Narumi pouted. They were going to drag their brother around the beach but couldn't find them, which annoyed them. A few hours had passed and Yoshino and Kushina were getting worried since Makumi and Naruto weren't anywhere to be seen. Girls, go find Arashi and Hana. We need to find Naruto and Makumi now. Kushina said with urgency in her voice as she stood up with Yoshino to have their husbands help find their son and daughter. Hi. The twins shouted and disappeared in a swirl of leaves to find their brother and his wife. The hotel room. Naruto and Makumi had spent a few hours together and they were happy she was finally able to release some pent-up stress thanks to her husband's magical fingers and tongue. And when was the last time we did this? Makumi panted out while laying on top of Naruto. Her hair was a mess from their private session and she was happy. She moved her hips a bit and could feel his warm semen leaking out of her. It's been a few weeks and if I had to go a day later I think I would have gone crazy. Naruto replied with a few love bites and claw marks covering his chest. He smiles as he looked at his wife's frame as she laid her head on his sweaty chest. How about we take this to the shower? Makumi asked in a sultry voice while nibbling his ear, making him moan. Don't start something you can't finish, Haim. Naruto said with a smirk on his face while holding his wife and getting off the bed. He could feel her powerful legs wrapping around his waist as he headed towards the bathroom. With every step, Makumi could feel her husband's member reaching deep inside of her as his seed was sloshing around inside of her, making her smile as they entered the bathroom and closed the door, forgetting to lock it. With the Namakazes and Naras. Narumi and Mito has found Arashi and Hana at a restaurant and told them what happened. They met up with their families and were looking for Naruto and Makumi when Hana picked up their trail. She led them to the Makumi's hotel room and used her spare key to get inside. Hana, are you sure they're both in here? Yoshino asked, making Hana nod. Yes, I can smell them in here. Hana replied. Before anyone else could say anything else, the bathroom door opened up. They saw as Naruto and Makumi walked out of the bathroom together. Naruto clad in nothing but a towel wrapped around his waist, exposing his chiseled chest and abs along with a few hickeys and scratches. His scars were on display, but the biggest one was from his left waist to his right shoulder, his fiery hair soaked from his shower. Makumi clad in a towel that covered her hourglass figure with a towel wrapped around her head. They looked happy, but the one thing they both noticed were the rings that hung from their necks. What the hell were you doing to my daughter? Shouted Yoshino, making the two teens pale, not realizing that their family were in the room with them. You better start explaining now, Makumi. Kushina growled out as her hair stood up in what looked like to be 9 tails. Mito and Narumi's faces were bright red from seeing their brother's exposed chest. Pervert. Mito yelled out while throwing whatever she could get her hands on. Bothersome. Makumi groaned out while dragging Naruto back into the bathroom with a bright red face. The sound of the bathroom door closing and locking brought Minato, Shikaku and Shikamaru back to life. Minato, if he breaks her heart. Shikaku said, leaving the thread in the air. If he breaks, oh hell no, if she breaks his heart, Minato challenged back. Troublesome. Shikamaru groaned out. Wow, didn't expect my Otuto to be so daring. Arashi said while blinking. Wasn't expecting this at all. Hana said while trying to stifle a giggle. Go grab our clothes now. Makumi's voice could be heard from the bathroom. Why the hell should I grab them? Your mom is going to kill me. Naruto argued back. This went on for a few more minutes until Naruto poked his head out with a bump on his head. Sue, can one of you grab our clothes please, and then we can explain what's happening? Naruto said, hoping they'd listen and not kill him. Arashi was the first to move and grabbed the folded clothes on the dresser and handed them to Naruto. Arigato. Naruto said while sticking his head back in the bathroom and locking the door. They came out a few minutes later blushing in embarrassment from being caught. Sue. Makumi said while sitting in a chair while looking up at their uninvited guests motioning to close the door. This is bothersome. Naruto muttered out, making Makumi nod in agreement. What the hell is this? I mean, you have a date with Choji and you're already sleeping with Naruto. Yoshino shouted angrily while glaring daggers at her daughter and Naruto. Bothersome. Naruto and I have been married for a year and a half. We didn't want to tell anyone because we knew you'd overreact like this, and besides, I've tried telling you that I didn't want you to set me up on any dates, but you wouldn't listen. Makumi groaned out in frustration while burying her face in Naruto's neck, wanting to escape this conversation. You're married. Kushina, Yoshino and the twins shouted together while leaking out a good amount of ki. Can this day get any worse? Naruto groaned out, hoping this was all just one giant genjutsu. I want an explanation now. Yoshino growled out in anger. Naruto and Makumi went on to explain how she started developing feelings for Naruto when they first met in the academy, then her feelings for him were solidified during their time as guardians. Naruto went on to explain how he started developing feelings for Makumi after saving her from some prince who was trying to force her to marry her by saying if she didn't marry him he'd wage war with Hino Kuni. Naruto had threatened the prince with a slow painful death if he tried anything with Makumi. They went into further explanation that a few months after Itachi had almost killed them they had gotten married to each other. Everyone in the room was shocked. Shikaku didn't know how to process this information since this was his little girl, his princess. Shikamaru just gave up since it was too troublesome to deal with. Minato and Kushina were shocked and didn't know what to say. On one hand their son was married and they were happy, on the other hand Kushina was pissed that her son had gotten married and didn't invite her to the wedding. Mito and Narumi were shocked that their brother was married and felt shocked and betrayed that he kept this a secret from everyone. Arashi didn't know what to say. He was surprised that his brother was married and shocked that he was able to keep it a secret for a year and a half. So how was the wedding? Hannah asked, hoping to diffuse the situation since you could cut the tension in the room with a dull knife. It was a small wedding with only 3 people since big weddings are too bothersome. Makumi yawned out while holding her husband's hand. Knock knock. Minato got up and answered the door so everyone could process this information. Sensei, what are you doing here and who are they? Minato asked. Jiraiya sensei, what are you doing here? Minato asked while his sensei had a nervous look on him. Oh hey Minato, can I come in? He half asked, half pleased. Minato looked at his sensei and the room, trying to figure out what to do or say. Just let the pervert in, Mina-kun. Kushina said out loud while glaring at Naruto and Makumi. So what brings you here, pervert? We're in middle of something important here and we don't need you disturbing us. Kushina practically growled out, making Jiraiya flinch. So I wanted to pop by and talk to Naruto. So Brad, I have something to tell you and it'll be perfect for you. Jiraiya laughed out, making everyone quirk an eyebrow. What do you want? Naruto asked while Melumi held his hand. I want you to fight someone for me. Jiraiya declared, making everyone gain a large sweat drop. Why do you need me to fight someone for you? Aren't you supposedly the strongest Sannin? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, you see Gaki, the thing is it's a fight for your hand in marriage. Jiraiya blurted out. I'm sorry, but it seems like you said that you set up a fight for my husband's hand in marriage. Makumi growled out while unsealing her bow and arrow while firing off a warning shot in between the Toad Sannin's legs. Please repeat yourself, Toad. Yoshino asked with a sickly sweet smile. As much as she hated the fact that her baby girl got married without her knowledge or permission, she and Kushina would rectify that with making them get remarried so they can plan it. WWLYOUSSC. Jiraiya, while his skin went a ghostly white seeing his Kushina, Yoshino, Mito, Narumi and Makumi glare daggers at him. Just tell us what happened, sensei. Arashi said while trying to keep the peace between everyone on the room, especially the females with their righteous fury, but he was mostly trying to keep Makumi from killing Jiraiya. After a few minutes of explaining his problems, Naruto's eyebrow was twitching uncontrollably while holding his wife back from killing Jiraiya. You mean to tell me that instead of taking responsibility for peeping on a village full of females you decided to pawn it off to your students? Let's not forget that Naruto was never your student, Toad. Makumi growled out, pissed that Naruto took her arrows away. Well, since you're married, Brad, it looks like I'm off the hook. Jiraiya replied with a sigh of relief. Like hell you are, Toad. Kushina and Yoshino growled out. She doesn't look like much. Are you sure she's worthy of being his wife? Came a soft monotone voice. Everyone turned towards the window and saw a fair-skinned girl of average height. She has green eyes and waist-length black hair in a Heim-style cut tied in a high ponytail with short bangs and chin-length strands framing her face. She was wearing a black forehead protector and wore a form-fitting kunoichi uniform. It looked to be gray-colored with a right shoulder guard, gray gloves, and opening in her shirt which reveals some of her sizable cleavage. "Oh Shizuka, I told you to wait outside." Jiraiya pouted. "I just wanted to see what my target looked like, and now that I see him, I have to say he's quite attractive. I don't think his wife is worthy of him." She smirked while taunting Makumi. "What did you say you?" Came a quiet voice from one Makumi Nara. "I said you should just divorce him and let a real kunoichi take over, it's not like you could ever satisfy him." Shizuka taunted again. "That's it, I'm killing this bitch. Let me go now Naruto, this bitch needs to die." Makumi roared out in anger. Naruto was hers and hers alone, no one will take him from her, not Kyuki and definitely not this. Haim, calm down, she's just taunting you and you're playing in her hand. Naruto replied calmly while wrapping his arm around his wife's waist trying to stop her from killing the poor girl. "Let's deal with this tomorrow." Shikaku yawned out, "Already over with today. Troublesome. Ero Sennin, we will kill you." Mito and Narumi growled out. The next day, Makumi was pissed. No, pissed was an understatement. She wanted to go on a murdering rampage. The last time she felt like this was when Itachi almost killed her husband. She had hunted him down like an animal and made him suffer. "Calm down Haim, she's not worth it," Naruto said while rubbing her shoulders while they ate breakfast together. "I'm going to kill that bitch. After I'm done killing her, I'm going to feed her to our summons, they're going to shit her out, and then I'm going to burn it." Makumi growled while relaxing a bit from enjoying her husband's massages. "That's, wow," Naruto replied with a sweat drop forming. He didn't know how to respond to this. "A little lower, husband," she replied with a content smile, while taking a bite of her bacon. Naruto just smiled and agreed to his wife's demands. He opened his mouth as Makumi shoved a piece of bacon in his mouth, making him cough. "What the hell?" he replied. "Your father just had to have a perverted sensei, didn't he?" She growled out, her golden eyes shining bright with danger. "I was never his student and I agree it's kinda annoying that he does that." Naruto replied while grabbing his tea. "How's my husband to be?" Came a voice from behind them. "Leave my husband alone, you damn floozy." Makumi growled out while cleaning her fist. "Don't you mean former husband?" Shizuka replies while sitting across from them while sending a wink towards Naruto. "I'll kill you," growled out Makumi. Vague threats from a weak kunoichi, not something that's a concern for me. "Now husband, how about you take me out on a date?" Shizuka smirked. "Lady Shizuka, I've been looking for you." Came a female voice. The woman had an imposing figure, easily towering over others. She has a slender physique with a very angular face framed by her short brown hair along with a dark shade of red lipstick. She wore a short, backless, red, full body suit over mesh armor, along with a pair of arm-length gloves and a light orange sash, a long blue-green apron skirt which is open in the front. She also wore bandages on her wrists, covering all of her right left as well as her left thigh and leg. She carried an extremely long and thin katana that was strapped to her back. "I just came to see how my future husband was doing to Kiwa." Shizuka replied while looking at her bodyguard. "Lady Shizuka, please don't run off from me again. You're the leader of Nadeshiko village. I can't have anything happening to you. Now let's go, the boy's father and mother want to talk to us." Takiwa replied. "I'll be seeing you around, husband," Shizuka said while smiling at him and kissing his cheek to piss off Makumi. "Touch him one more time and your village will be looking for a new leader, you hussy." Makumi growled out. Shallow threats from a weak kunoichi. Shizuka replied offhandedly as she and Takiwa walked away. With Yoshino. "Shikaku, is there anything you can do about this?" Yoshino yelled out while slamming her hands down at a public restaurant. "No, there isn't. Lord Jiraiya made this deal with the previous leader of Nadeshiko village," he replied while drinking his tea. "Sensei is a dumbass," Arashi said while feeding Hana some bacon and eggs. "I have to agree with you, Arashi-kun. Lord Jiraiya sure bit off more than he could chew," Hana said while looking at her husband with a smirk. "We're going to kill Ero Sennin," Narumi growled out. "If only Anko-chan was here, we could torture the stupid pervert." Mito said while stabbing the table with a butter knife, making it sink in. Mito, stop stabbing the table now. Arashi scolded his younger sister. Sorry, Oni-san. Mito replied with an embarrassed look on her face while removing the knife. Troublesome redheads. Shikamaru said while poking at his food. I'll kill that damn pervert for trying to ruin my little girl's marriage. Yoshino growled out in frustration. I thought you were mad at her for getting married. Shikamaru asked while finishing his food. She's more mad about not being invited to the wedding, that's why she and Kushina are going to make them get remarried. Shikaku groaned out knowing that this was going to be a drag. Troublesome. When this is all over, Mikumi and Naruto are going to have a wedding. This wedding will go smoothly, and if you or Shikamaru slack off, I'm going to make you regret it. Yoshino growled out, making the father and son duo groan out. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to find Kushi-chan and then we're going to hunt down my daughter and son-in-law so we can plan a proper wedding for them. Those bakas thought they could get away with a small wedding HMPH like we'd let them. Yoshino declared as she stood up and went looking for Kushina. With Naruto and Mikumi. A few hours had passed by after the confirmation with Shizuka. Mikumi had dragged her husband to her room where they were enjoying some well-needed relaxation and alone time. Mikumi was laying on Naruto's chest with sweat dripping her forehead and onto his chest. She was happy now, and her husband had made her that her stress was thoroughly relieved. She brought the blanket up to cover their bodies while feeling her husband still buried inside of her. So want me to keep reliving your stress, Haim? Naruto asked while looking at his wife. I'm sore. You and your clones wore me out. She said, blushing, remembering the gangbang she had just gone through. Say what you want, but he put those clones to use and she would definitely rub it in during her next girls' night out. Naruto smiles at her and looked at the clock. It was 1:30 p.m. 5.5 hours, Haim. You lasted longer this time. Naruto teased out while his wife hit his chest, making him laugh. Bothersome husband. She said with a content smile on her face. She knew she should be using the pregnancy jutsu, but she was too tired to even move. Well, we've always talked about starting a family, and besides, life as a ninja can always end in a blink of an eye. She thought to herself while daydreaming about her and Naruto having kids with her black hair and his red streaks, thinking everything was bothersome while having unlimited energy. The thought of their kids having her intellect and Naruto's prankster side life would never be boring. The unlimited potential they'd have made her smile. Someone's happy. Naruto said as he watched his wife's gold eyes brighten and soften. What are you thinking about? Naruto asked. As starting a family, training our kids to use their Kajimane no Jutsu, watching them prank the village. Watching as you scare away the boys who try to ask out our daughter, me telling our son that any girl they bring home isn't good enough for them. Mikumi replied with a warm smile on her face. Ruby red eyes met bright gold eyes and their lips connected in a gentle passionate kiss. As they deepened the kiss, they were disrupted by a knock on the door. If we don't answer, you think they'll leave? Mikumi asked. Let's hope. Naruto replied. Sadly, the knocking didn't stop as Naruto stood up and grabbed his towel and wrapped it around his waist and walked towards the door. Who is it? Naruto asked while looking through the peephole. It's Yoshino and Kushina. We wanted to talk to my daughter about the wedding plans. Yoshino replied. Bothersome. She's sleeping. Naruto said, hoping they'd leave so he can pleasure his wife some more. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Stop thinking with your and open this damn door, or so help me Kami, I'll make you regret it. Kushina practically yelled out, making some people open their doors to see the commotion. Bothersome. Naruto replied while opening the door in defeat, making Mikumi giggle at her husband for using her catchphrase. Looks like my daughter is rubbing off on you, Naruto-kun. Now go get dressed. Same goes for you, young lady. Yoshino said in her mom voice, leaving no room for arguments. Naruto and Mikumi looked at each other and smiled, thinking they could get away. Separately, Kushina demanded, making the two teens groan out in disappointment. With Shizuka. Shizuka was bored out of her mind. She had listened to both Minato's and Jiraiya's cases and didn't care. You know, if you wanted to avoid this, then you shouldn't have broken your promise, Jiraiya. You swore to my mentor that you would come back and finish your fight, but you never did. This all happened because you couldn't keep your word. I intend to beat your student's son. Shizuka declared. Then why do you keep provoking my daughter-in-law? Minato asked, still not over the fact that his son Naruto had gotten married. It's enjoyable. Your son is an S-rank shinobi in the bingo book, and even I know he'll be hard to fight. But the fact that his wife is only an A- rank is weird to me. I feel like she isn't worthy of him. I remember hearing stories about your son and wanted to fight him myself, so imagine to my surprise that he's married something that your sensei left out. Shizuka finished while glaring at the old toad senin. We had just found out yesterday that they were married, Shizuka. I mean, not even Jiraiya would have known if even I didn't know. Hell, I doubt the fire daimyo knew about it, and they were both part of his fire guardians. Minato said, hoping to defuse the situation. Be that as it may, I still want to fight your son. Shizuka said, leaving no room for arguments. Well, Naruto was never my student, so I don't think this fight is actually necessary. I mean, I never trained him. Hell, I never even let him sign the Toad contract. Jiraiya said, hoping to find some type of loophole. Lady Shizuka has already made up her mind. She will be fighting Naruto, and if doesn't fight her seriously, he will regret it. Takvia replied as the two of them stood up and bowed before leaving. You really screwed us over, didn't you, sensei? I knew your peeping would one day cause serious problems. Minato groaned out while pinching the bridge of his nose. Can you blame me, brat? I mean, it was a village full of beautiful, gorgeous women. How could I not do my research? Jiraiya giggled pervertedly with some blood dripping from his nose. With Mito and Narumi, the twin sisters were annoyed. Their brother had to fight some girl all because their sensei couldn't keep it in his pants when he was younger. I wish Anko-chan was here. I really need to torture our perverted godfather. Mito growled out, making Narumi giggle. Oh, does my twin have a crush on Anko-sensei? Narumi teased. So what if I have a crush on her? I mean, she's cute, funny, serious, strong, and her tongue is adorable. Mito said while blushing. She had grown a crush on Anko when she had first met her during the Chunin exams and found her confidence to be intoxicating. A few weeks ago she had grown the courage and asked the snake mistress out on a date which Anko had agreed to. Wait, why you mean you love Anko-sensei? Narumi stopped and looked at her twin in shock. Well, we did go on a few dates before we left on vacation, and before I left she kissed me. Mito replied with a blush on her face. Before Narumi could reply, her eyes hardened when she saw the girl trying to ruin her Oni-chan's marriage. They decided to go confront her and talk to her. Hey, can we talk? Narumi asked while looking at Shizuka. I don't see why not. Shizuka replied in a quiet voice. They walked towards a small restaurant and sat down. Why do you wanna fight Narumi for? From what we were told, you're supposed to fight Jiraiya's apprentice, and last time I checked, Narumi was never his apprentice. Narumi said while glaring straight at the girl in front of her. Be that as it may, you can't expect me to fight either of you. I mean, do you two even know what the rules for Nadeshiko village are? Shizuka asked while looking at the two redheads. No. Mito replied while her sister shook her head. If a male is to beat one of us in a combat, then he is to become our husband, and the wife is to give birth to strong female kunoichi. Shizuka replied while placing her order for sushi. So basically, you're going to be using our brother just to help you pop out babies. You're basically using each other as breeding machines. Narumi accused her. That's the rules of my village. There is no changing them. Sometimes the kunoichi will find love with the man who beats them, and sometimes they just use each other. It's a win-win for us. Shizuka said while drinking her tea. The fight will be happening tomorrow whether you like it or not, and if Naruto-kun doesn't take it serious, he's going to regret it. Shizuka said in a cold, dangerous voice. What will you do if he doesn't take it serious? Mito asked curiously. Well, if he doesn't take it serious, then I'll just. Jiraiya-sensei, what are you doing here? Minato asked while his sensei had a nervous look on him. Oh hey Minato, can I come in? He half asked, half pleased. Minato looked at his sensei and the room, trying to figure out what to do or say. Just let the pervert in, Mina-kun. Kushina said out loud while glaring at Naruto and Mikumi. So what brings you here, pervert? We're in middle of something important here and we don't need you disturbing us. Kushina practically growled out, making Jiraiya flinch. So I wanted to pop by and talk to Naruto. So Brad, I have something to tell you and it'll be perfect for you. Jiraiya laughed out, making everyone quirk an eyebrow. What do you want? Naruto asked while Melumi held his hand. I want you to fight someone for me. Jiraiya declared, making everyone gain a large sweat drop. Why do you need me to fight someone for you? Aren't you supposedly the strongest Sannin? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, you see, Gaki, the thing is it's a fight for your hand in marriage. Jiraiya blurted out. I'm sorry, but it seems like you said that you set up a fight for my husband's hand in marriage. Makumi growled out while unsealing her bow and arrow while firing off a warning shot in between the Toad Sanin's legs. Please repeat yourself, Toad, Yoshino asked with a sickly sweet smile. As much as she hated the fact that her baby girl got married without her knowledge or permission, she and Kushina would rectify that with making them get remarried so they can plan it. WWLYOUSSC. Jiraiya, while his skin went a ghostly white seeing his Kushina, Yoshino, Mito, Narumi and Makumi glare daggers at him. Just tell us what happened, sensei. Arashi said while trying to keep the peace between everyone on the room, especially the females with their righteous fury, but he was mostly trying to keep Makumi from killing Jiraiya. After a few minutes of explaining his problems, Naruto's eyebrow was twitching uncontrollably while holding his wife back from killing Jiraiya. You mean to tell me that instead of taking responsibility for peeping on a village full of females, you decided to pawn it off to your students? Let's not forget that Naruto was never your student, Toad. Makumi growled out, pissed that Naruto took her arrows away. Well, since you're married, brat, it looks like I'm off the hook. Jiraiya replied with a sigh of relief. Like hell you are, Toad. Kushina and Yoshino growled out. She doesn't look like much. Are you sure she's worthy of being his wife? Came a soft monotone voice. Everyone turned towards the window and saw a fair-skinned girl of average height. She has green eyes and waist-length black hair in a Heim-style cut tied in a high ponytail with short bangs and chin-length strands framing her face. She was wearing a black forehead protector and wore a form-fitting kunoichi uniform. It looked to be gray-colored with a right shoulder guard, gray gloves, and opening in her shirt which reveals some of her sizable cleavage. Oh Shizuka, I told you to wait outside. Jiraiya pouted. I just wanted to see what my target looked like, and now that I see him, I have to say he's quite attractive. I don't think his wife is worthy of him. She smirked while taunting Makumi. What did you say, you? Came a quiet voice from one Makumi Nara. I said you should just divorce him and let a real kunoichi take over. It's not like you could ever satisfy him. Shizuka taunted again. That's it, I'm killing this bitch. Let me go now, Naruto. This bitch needs to die. Makumi roared out in anger. Naruto was hers and hers alone. No one will take him from her, not Kyuki, and definitely not this. Haim, calm down. She's just taunting you and you're playing in her hand. Naruto replied calmly while wrapping his arm around his wife's waist, trying to stop her from killing the poor girl. Let's deal with this tomorrow. Shikaku yawned out, already over with today. Troublesome. Ero Sennin, we will kill you. Mito and Narumi growled out. The next day, Makumi was pissed. No, pissed was an understatement. She wanted to go on a murdering rampage. The last time she felt like this was when Itachi almost killed her husband. She had hunted him down like an animal and made him suffer. Calm down, Haim, she's not worth it. Naruto said while rubbing her shoulders while they ate breakfast together. I'm going to kill that bitch. After I'm done killing her, I'm going to feed her to our summons. They're going to shit her out and then I'm going to burn it. Makumi growled while relaxing a bit from enjoying her husband's massages. That's, wow. Naruto replied with a sweat drop forming. He didn't know how to respond to this. A little lower, husband. She replied with a content smile, while taking a bite of her bacon. Naruto just smiled and agreed to his wife's demands. He opened his mouth as Makumi shoved a piece of bacon in his mouth, making him cough. What the hell? He replied. Your father just had to have a perverted sensei, didn't he? She growled out, her golden eyes shining bright with danger. I was never his student and I agree it's kinda annoying that he does that. Naruto replied while grabbing his tea. How's my husband to be? Came a voice from behind them. Leave my husband alone, you damn floozy. Makumi growled out while cleaning her fist. Don't you mean former husband? Shizuka replies while sitting across from them while sending a wink towards Naruto. I'll kill you, growled out Makumi. Vague threats from a weak kunoichi, not something that's a concern for me. Now husband, how about you take me out on a date? Shizuka smirked. Lady Shizuka, I've been looking for you. Came a female voice. The woman had an imposing figure, easily towering over others. She has a slender physique with a very angular face framed by her short brown hair along with a dark shade of red lipstick. She wore a short, backless, red, full body suit over mesh armor, along with a pair of arm-length gloves and a light orange sash, a long blue-green apron skirt which is open in the front. She also wore bandages on her wrists, covering all of her right left as well as her left thigh and leg. She carried an extremely long and thin katana that was strapped to her back. I just came to see how my future husband was doing, Takiwa. Shizuka replied while looking at her bodyguard. Lady Shizuka, please don't run off from me again, you're the leader of Nadeshiko village. I can't have anything happening to you, now let's go, the boy's father and mother want to talk to us. Takiwa replied. I'll be seeing you around, husband. Shizuka said while smiling at him and kissing his cheek to piss off Mikumi. Touch him one more time and your village will be looking for a new leader, you hussy. Mikumi growled out. Shallow threats from a weak kunoichi. Shizuka replied offhandedly as she and Takiwa walked away. With Yoshino. Shikaku, is there anything you can do about this? Yoshino yelled out while slamming her hands down at a public restaurant. No, there isn't. Lord Jiraiya made this deal with the previous leader of Nadeshiko village. He replied while drinking his tea. Sensei is a dumbass. Arashi said while feeding Hana some bacon and eggs. I have to agree with you, Arashi-kun. Lord Jiraiya sure bit off more than he could chew. Hana said while looking at her husband with a smirk. We're going to kill Ero Sennin. Narumi growled out. If only Anko-chan was here, we could torture the stupid pervert. Mito said while stabbing the table with a butter knife, making it sink in. Mito, stop stabbing the table now. Arashi scolded his younger sister. Sorry, Oni-san. Mito replied with an embarrassed look on her face while removing the knife. Troublesome redheads. Shikamaru said while poking at his food. I'll kill that damn pervert for trying to ruin my little girl's marriage. Yoshino growled out in frustration. I thought you were mad at her for getting married. Shikamaru asked while finishing his food. She's more mad about not being invited to the wedding, that's why she and Kushina are going to make them get remarried. Shikaku groaned out knowing that this was going to be a drag. Troublesome. When this is all over, Mikumi and Naruto are going to have a wedding. This wedding will go smoothly, and if you or Shikamaru slack off, I'm going to make you regret it. Yoshino growled out, making the father and son duo groan out. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to find Kushi-chan and then we're going to hunt down my daughter and son-in-law so we can plan a proper wedding for them. Those bakas thought they could get away with a small wedding, HMPH, like we'd let them. Yoshino declared as she stood up and went looking for Kushina. With Naruto and Mikumi. A few hours had passed by after the confirmation with Shizuka. Mikumi had dragged her husband to her room where they were enjoying some well-needed relaxation and alone time. Mikumi was laying on Naruto's chest with sweat dripping her forehead and onto his chest. She was happy now, and her husband had made her that her stress was thoroughly relieved. She brought the blanket up to cover their bodies while feeling her husband still buried inside of her. So want me to keep reliving your stress, Haim? Naruto asked while looking at his wife. I'm sore. You and your clones wore me out. She said, blushing, remembering the gangbang she had just gone through. Say what you want, but he put those clones to use and she would definitely rub it in during her next girls' night out. Naruto smiles at her and looked at the clock. It was 1:30 p.m. 5.5 hours, Haim. You lasted longer this time. Naruto teased out while his wife hit his chest, making him laugh. Bothersome husband. She said with a content smile on her face. She knew she should be using the pregnancy jutsu, but she was too tired to even move. Well, we've always talked about starting a family, and besides, life as a ninja can always end in a blink of an eye. She thought to herself while daydreaming about her and Naruto having kids with her black hair and his red streaks, thinking everything was bothersome while having unlimited energy. The thought of their kids having her intellect and Naruto's prankster side life would never be boring. The unlimited potential they'd have made her smile. Someone's happy. Naruto said as he watched his wife's gold eyes brighten and soften. What are you thinking about? Naruto asked. As starting a family, training our kids to use their Kajimane no Jutsu, watching them prank the village. Watching as you scare away the boys who try to ask out our daughter, me telling our son that any girl they bring home isn't good enough for them. Mikumi replied with a warm smile on her face. Ruby red eyes met bright gold eyes and their lips connected in a gentle, passionate kiss. As they deepened the kiss, they were disrupted by a knock on the door. If we don't answer, you think they'll leave? Mikumi asked. Let's hope. Naruto replied. Sadly, the knocking didn't stop as Naruto stood up and grabbed his towel and wrapped it around his waist and walked towards the door. Who is it? Naruto asked while looking through the peephole. It's Yoshino and Kushina. We wanted to talk to my daughter about the wedding plans. Yoshino replied. Bothersome. She's sleeping. Naruto said, hoping they'd leave so he can pleasure his wife some more. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Stop thinking with your and open this damn door, or so help me Kami, I'll make you regret it. Kushina practically yelled out, making some people open their doors to see the commotion. Bothersome. Naruto replied while opening the door in defeat, making Mikumi giggle at her husband for using her catchphrase. Looks like my daughter is rubbing off on you, Naruto-kun. Now go get dressed. Same goes for you, young lady. Yoshino said in her mom voice, leaving no room for arguments. Naruto and Mikumi looked at each other and smiled, thinking they could get away. Separately, Kushina demanded, making the two teens groan out in disappointment. With Shizuka. Shizuka was bored out of her mind. She had listened to both Minato's and Jiraiya's cases and didn't care. You know, if you wanted to avoid this, then you shouldn't have broken your promise, Jiraiya. You swore to my mentor that you would come back and finish your fight, but you never did. This all happened because you couldn't keep your word. I intend to beat your student's son. Shizuka declared. Then why do you keep provoking my daughter-in-law? Minato asked, still not over the fact that his son Naruto had gotten married. It's enjoyable. Your son is an S-rank shinobi in the bingo book, and even I know he'll be hard to fight. But the fact that his wife is only an A- rank is weird to me. I feel like she isn't worthy of him. I remember hearing stories about your son and wanted to fight him myself, so imagine to my surprise that he's married, something that your sensei left out. Shizuka finished while glaring at the old toad Sennin. We had just found out yesterday that they were married, Shizuka. I mean, not even Jiraiya would have known if even I didn't know. Hell, I doubt the Fire Daimyo knew about it, and they were both part of his Fire Guardians. Minato said, hoping to defuse the situation. Be that as it may, I still want to fight your son. Shizuka said, leaving no room for arguments. Well, Naruto was never my student, so I don't think this fight is actually necessary. I mean, I never trained him. Hell, I never even let him sign the Toad contract. Jiraiya said, hoping to find some type of loophole. Lady Shizuka has already made up her mind. She will be fighting Naruto, and if doesn't fight her seriously, he will regret it. Takvia replied as the two of them stood up and bowed before leaving. You really screwed us over, didn't you, sensei? I knew your peeping would one day cause serious problems. Minato groaned out while pinching the bridge of his nose. Can you blame me, brat? I mean, it was a village full of beautiful, gorgeous women. How could I not do my research? Jiraiya giggled pervertedly with some blood dripping from his nose. With Mito and Narumi, the twin sisters were annoyed. Their brother had to fight some girl all because their sensei couldn't keep it in his pants when he was younger. I wish Anko-chan was here. I really need to torture our perverted godfather. Mito growled out, making Narumi giggle. Oh, does my twin have a crush on Anko-sensei? Narumi teased. So what if I have a crush on her? I mean, she's cute, funny, serious, strong, and her tongue is adorable. Mito said while blushing. She had grown a crush on Anko when she had first met her during the Chunin exams and found her confidence to be intoxicating. A few weeks ago she had grown the courage and asked the snake mistress out on a date which Anko had agreed to. Wait, why you mean you love Anko-sensei? Narumi stopped and looked at her twin in shock. Well, we did go on a few dates before we left on vacation, and before I left she kissed me. Mito replied with a blush on her face. Before Narumi could reply, her eyes hardened when she saw the girl trying to ruin her Oni-chan's marriage. They decided to go confront her and talk to her. Hey, can we talk? Narumi asked while looking at Shizuka. I don't see why not. Shizuka replied in a quiet voice. They walked towards a small restaurant and sat down. Why do you wanna fight Narumi for? From what we were told, you're supposed to fight Jiraiya's apprentice, and last time I checked, Narumi was never his apprentice. Narumi said while glaring straight at the girl in front of her. Be that as it may, you can't expect me to fight either of you. I mean, do you two even know what the rules for Nadeshiko village are? Shizuka asked while looking at the two redheads. No. Mito replied while her sister shook her head. If a male is to beat one of us in a combat, then he is to become our husband, and the wife is to give birth to strong female kunoichi. Shizuka replied while placing her order for sushi. So basically you're going to be using our brother just to help you pop out babies, you're basically using each other as breeding machines. Narumi accused her. That's the rules of my village, there is no changing them. Sometimes the kunoichi will find love with the man who beats them and sometimes they just use each other, it's a win-win for us. Shizuka said while drinking her tea. The fight will be happening tomorrow whether you like it or not, and if Naruto-kun doesn't take it serious he's going to regret it. Shizuka said in a cold dangerous voice. What will you do if he doesn't take it serious? Mito asked curiously. Well, if he doesn't take it serious then I'll just. Naruto, I'm coming. Screamed Mikumi as she arched her back while clawing at his chest. Her bright gold eyes glazed in pleasure as she felt her husband's seed burst deep inside of her and fell onto his chest panting. That, pant, oh, pant, Kami. She panted out in pleasure. Ready for round 8 Heim. Naruto teased out as she glared at her baka husband. Where the do you get this ungodly stamina? Mikumi asked while grabbing her husband's tool making sure he didn't pull out. I still have no idea how he's able to fit inside of me. Mikumi thought to herself with a blush. You have to remember, my mother is an Uzumaki and was the former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, so being born as a child of a Jinchuriki I somehow inherited her ungodly stamina, plus Uzumakis are known to have a lot of stamina. Now put those together and I'm basically a walking ball of unlimited energy that doesn't run out. Naruto said with a smirk on his face as he was slowly moving his hips making his wife moan out in pleasure. Red eyes met gold eyes as their lips connected in a hot passionate kiss, their tongues fighting for dominance as Mikumi pinned his arms down and started grinding her hips in a slow circular motion making her husband moan in her mouth as she slowly rocked her hips back and forth making her large C cups bounce slightly. Biting his lower lip made him lose focus as she dominated his tongue. Say what you want about her, but when it came to hers and Naruto's life she was not one to be lazy, she trained herself to try and keep up with her husband in stamina. But no matter what she did she always fell behind, not that he minded, he always made sure to pleasure her thoroughly and her brains out. She started to slowly bounce on her husband's as her cum trailed down his long thick, she felt every inch deep inside of her as every vein pulsed deep in her. Knock knock knock. If we ignore them, they'll go away. Mikumi moaned and whispered in his ear while gently nibbling his ear and licking it, trying to distract him from their uninvited guest as their lips connected in a heated kiss. Knock asterisk knock asterisk knock. Whoever was at the door was getting annoyed and wasn't going to let them enjoy their time alone. Mikumi and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, I know you're both in there, so open this damn door right now or so help me Kami. Shouted an annoyed Yoshino. Can't you two stop like rabbits for one day? Came the voice of one pissed off Kushina. Bothersome. Naruto and Mikumi said at the same time. We're not feeling well, we have a stomach flu. Mikumi lies to her mother and mother-in-law hoping they'd leave. She wanted her husband and damn it she was going to have her husband. I'm a matter of seconds the door was blown off its hinges as Kushina walked in, her hair waving behind her like 9 tails with a deadly aura surrounding her. Stop and get dressed right now. Kushina-sama shouted while hitting them both on top of the head. I'm too young to be a grandmother. Yoshino yelled out while hitting them both with a frying pan on top of their heads. A few minutes later a bruised Naruto and Mikumi were dragged out of their room by the back of their shirts while the guests were looking at them. Some had blushes on their faces from the mother duo yelling out what they were doing. While others had looks of jealousy, men and some women lusting over Mikumki, while women and some men were lusting over Naruto, wanting to be in each other's shoes. Ka-chan, do you really have to yell out what we were doing? Naruto asked while nursing the bump on his head. Of course Sochi-kun, if you had just opened the door after the first knock I wouldn't have to announce what you two were doing. Kushina grunted out making Yoshino nod in agreement. So where we're going? Mikumi asked. You know exactly where we're going, young lady. You were keeping your husband away from his fight, weren't you? Yoshino asked, giving her daughter a look that said, don't you dare lie to me. Oh, that was today, guess we forgot. She snickered and then glared at her husband. If you don't lose I'm going to kill you and that damn floozy. Mikumi growled out in anger. I know Haim, don't worry, I'll make sure to lose. Naruto responded while leaning in to kiss his wife before Kushina and Yoshino hit him on top of his head. No more kissing until this is all over and until you have your new wedding that we worked so hard to plan. The mothers shouted, making the two young couples pout. With Shizuka. Shizuka had just finished her stretches and was getting ready for her fight with Naruto. She knew she couldn't hold back against him, and even one misstep, one lapse of judgment could be her undoing. Takiwa was standing off to the side while watching her prized student warm up. She moved her head to the side while looking at the Naruto who had just arrived a few minutes with a furious Kushina. She noticed his wife had a certain glow about her and was walking with a slight limp. She wondered if they were training and if she had hurt herself in said training. She knew what they were about to do was underhanded, but they were ninja and fighting fair wasn't in the job description. Use anything you can to win was what they were always taught at a young age. Ka-chan, why couldn't we reschedule the fight for tomorrow? Naruto asked while doing some stretches, knowing that he had to make himself lose this fight so he and Mikumi could live in peace. We tried, Naruto-kun. Kushina smiled sadly, hoping by some miracle this fight could just be called off. It's fine, Ka-chan. I mean, what did you expect? Jiraiya never keeps his word and always tries to pawn everything off on everyone else. Naruto chuckled, making Jiraiya flinch at the small jab that was thrown at him. Jiraiya knew what Naruto said was true. He messed up a lot in life and lied to the former leader of Nadeshiko village. From what he heard, people had pitied her for losing her chance to find love, all because he was hung up on Tsunade. He knew Tsunade would never love again even after getting over Dan's death. Maybe I can redeem myself for once. I know it won't make up for much, but I can't do this to him. No more running away. Takiwa, I challenge you in place of Naruto and Shizuka's fight. Jiraiya declared. Everyone was shocked. They weren't expecting Jiraiya of all people to step in and take responsibility for what he created. What do you think, Lady Shizuka? Takiwa asked while looking at Jiraiya out of the corner of her eyes. We refuse your offer. If you thought that you could finally take responsibility for your mistake, then you're wrong, Jiraiya. You should have taken responsibility a long time ago with the previous leader of my village. Now you have to stand and watch as I beat your student. Shizuka declared. He's not his student. Naruto and Mikumi both groaned out. Why did everyone have to be so bothersome? Let's just get this over with. Mikumi-chan and I have a training session that we need to get back to. Naruto declared, making Mikumi blush at her baka of a husband. Baka. Mikumi muttered out. I made sure to add some incentive so you take this fight seriously, and if anyone interferes, let's just say that you'll be becoming a widow early in life. Shizuka threatened Naruto. Steel blades could be felt against Mikumi's neck, making her eyes harden while glaring at the bitch she hated more than anything. Just so you know, Naruto, my kunoichi are under strict orders to kill your wife if they feel like you're not taking this fight seriously, and if any one of your family members try and step in, she'll be killed. You have a choice: fight me with everything you have or watch as your wife dies. The choice is yours. Shizuka said while Naruto's ki was slowly rising before everyone exploded, making everyone fall to their knees in fear of Naruto's ki. Are you threatening my wife, Shizuka? Naruto stated while slowly walking up to her, seeing the fear in her eyes. His ki, it's like the Shishin Shinigami is gripping my neck. Did I screw up this badly? Shizuka thought to herself while feeling a cold blade under her chin. I could easily kill you right now and your village would be looking for a new leader. Naruto growled out had his pupils became slitted. You can threaten me all you want, I don't care, but once you threaten my wife you better pray to whatever god you believe in. Naruto growled out, making Shizuka look up at him in fear. I surrender. Shizuka choked out under the intense pressure of this man's ki. Never in her life had she ever felt this kind pressure. She knew he was strong, especially since he was an S-rank shinobi. But this pressure was unbearable. It far exceeded her imaginations. She had already visualized her death multiple times over, and each one was more gruesome than the last. With Mikumi, when she had felt those blades against her neck, she knew that Shizuka had up badly. During their times as guardians, they had rules surrounding Naruto. Don't get in his way of his ramen. Don't touch his ramen. Don't think about his ramen. Don't insult ramen. But there was one rule that would get you killed faster than you could blink. That rule was to never, and I mean never ever, threaten or insult her ever. Not in his presence or behind his back. You know you're probably all going to die now. Mikumi said with a smirk on her face. Do you know what happened to the last person who threatened me in front of Naru-kun? Mikumi asked them while smirking, making them shake their heads in fear. Let's just say that he destroyed them on a cellular level. There was nothing left of them. Mikumi smirked. She knew how powerful her husband was, and when someone insulted or threatened her, he'd make sure no, and she meant no one was left alive. You better hope he's feeling merciful towards your of a leader, she said while glaring at the kunoichis who were on the sand looking at Naruto in fear. Ototo, is this your true power? A shocked Arashi thought to himself while struggling to stand as he looked at his younger brother with fear in his eyes. He sparred with him a few times when he came back him, but never in his life would he have thought that his little brother was hiding this kind of raw power. I can't believe how powerful Naruto is. I remember when he was still in diapers, Hana said while looking at her brother-in-law in shock and fear. Ni-san's ki, it's so potent it feels like I'm watching my own death, Narumi said while falling to her knees and looking at her brother. This kind of power shouldn't be possible, Mito said while Sochi-kun, his powerful are you? Kushina said while looking at her youngest son. Unlike her three other children, she was better able to handle her son's ki a bit better. At least I know he can protect Mikumi should anything happen to her, Shikaku muttered to himself while Yoshino nodded her in agreement, knowing that their daughter was in safe hands. Minato, remind me to never peep on your son and daughter-in-law, Jiraiya said a little too loud, making Kushina, Yoshino and Mikumi glare at him. Sensei, please stop, Minato groaned out. Damn it Naruto, I told you to lose, Mikumi shouted, finally realizing that the floozy had just surrendered from feeling her husband's ki. Naruto stopped his ki and looked at his wife owlishly, realizing that he was right. The second his wife was being threatened, he took action and was ready to kill Shizuka for even thinking of harming his Haim. I'm still not marrying you, Shizuka. We didn't actually fight, so this doesn't count, he said, hoping it'd be a loophole. It doesn't matter, you still agreed to the fight and this was the fight. I surrender myself to you, so that means that you will be married to me now, Naruto-kun. Shizuka smirked while glaring at Mikumi. The hell he is, you damn harlot, Mikumi shouted while going through some hand seals, shouting out, Kage Kubashibari no Jutsu. The shadow slowly rose up towards Shizuka's neck as the hand started choking her. I could kill you right now, bitch. You're going to leave me and my husband alone. I don't care about your village's rules. Naruto is mine and mine alone. No one, and I mean no one, will ever have him besides me. I've been in love with him since we were 5 years old, and no one is going to steal him away from me. Not you, not Kyuki, hell not even the fire daimyo's daughter, Mikumi yelled while tightening the grip on Shizuka's neck, making her lose focus. Mikumi, release her, Naruto said while holding his wife from behind. He knew she was pissed, angry tears were rolling down her cheeks, he knew how much he meant to her. They've been through so much together. He held her when she had her first kill. She was depressed for over 2 months until Naruto came back from his mission, and of her. He never left her side as she cried in his arms. He didn't mind that she was blowing her nose in his shirts, or when he'd wake up in the middle of the night to her trying to kill him due to the trauma she suffered from killing. Why? Why should I? So many people are trying to take you from me and I can't deal with it anymore. I don't want to lose you, Mikumi cried out while releasing the technique and burying her face in Naruto's chest as she cried. She tried so hard to be strong, but she couldn't handle it anymore, the fact that so many people were trying to ruin her marriage. Why couldn't they just let her be happy? Why couldn't they just see that they were happy together? I'll deal with you guys later, Naruto whispered out and left with Mikumi via Shunshin. With Naruto and Mikumi, they arrived in his room while he gently held her while she cried. The anger, sadness and frustration had finally broken through. He truly loved her and only ever had eyes for her and no one else. He didn't say anything as he walked her towards the bed and laid down gently, not once letting her go. I love you, Mikumi, and nothing will ever change that. No one will ever take me away from you. I will only love you and only you. Nothing will ever change that, Naruto whispered as he gently rubbed her back. The sounds of her sniffling could be heard as she held onto Naruto tightly like he was her lifeline. She didn't want to be alone. She's been in love with him for so long and always feared that she'd lose him to someone else. Most girls only wanted him because of who his father was and not who he was. No one took the time to know him like she had done. She was with him through everything. His first kill, the time she rescued him when a princess captured and tortured him trying to force him to marry her, but the most recent one was his close call with death at the hands of Itachi. Promise me that you'll never leave, please. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you, I know we're shinobi, but I worry about you so much, and those bitches won't leave you alone, it's frustrating. She yelled in his chest. I promise Makumi I won't ever leave you, you mean so much to me. He whispered out. Sing for me please. She blushes in embarrassment, that was one of the things that made her fall in love with him. He had such a perfect voice that she could fall asleep peacefully in his arms. What song, Haim? Naruto asked, knowing which song she wanted him to sing. My favorite one please. She asked SHLY. Listen to My Escape by Ravenscode. Would you help me to find a new way? Would you guide me through all this again? Don't let me slip away. I need you here till the very end. So stay here with me. There's so much love in your smile when I look at your face. And I'm here to stay. You're my first and my last loving. You're my escape. So tell me you'll be right here with me. Hearing your voice is like hearing an angel sing. Through the good and bad and all in between. You're the one I want and the one I need. And I know. You taught me to live each day. To live each day like it's my last. I won't make you turn away. So come with me and never look back. After all that we've been through. You are still by my side and I'm grateful you're there and I love you. You're my best friend and I want you to know I care. So tell me you'll be right here with me. Hearing your voice is like hearing an angel sing. Through the good and bad and all in between. You're the one I want and the one I need. And I know. So this is how we planned it, knowing we won't be alone. And this is how it's supposed to be when you knew it all along. So tell me you'll be right here with me. Hearing your voice is like hearing an angel sing. Through the good and bad and all in between. You're the one I want and the one I need. And I know. So tell me you'll be right here with me. Hearing your voice is like hearing an angel sing. Through the good and bad and all in between. You're the one I want and the one I need. And I know. After Naruto finished singing, a light snore could be heard as he looked down at his wife's smiling face. She looked happy and content in his arms. He knew that she now happy and relaxed. The song had calmed her down and she was now happy in his arms. No one besides her knew that he could sing and she was going to keep it that way unless she felt like showing off her man. I love you. Naruto. Makumi mumbled in her sleep. I love you too, Makumi. Naruto whispered out while holding his wife in his arms as she slept. He smiled at his wife while he held her close. He couldn't sleep since it was late in the afternoon and he was hungry. He wouldn't move since his Haim was comfortable and he would always make sure she was happy. The next morning, Makumi stirred in her sleep and slowly opened her eyes. She didn't want to wake up but knew that she had no other choice. Maybe if she kept her eyes closed and pretended to be asleep, then Naruto would stay in place and she'd have her way. It was a win-win situation for her and she knew it. I know you're awake, Haim, and as much as I want you in my arms, I'm hungry and you've been sleeping for a few good hours. Naruto teased out, making her pout. So what? I'm your wife and I deserve to have my meat pillow whenever I want to use it. But since you did sing to me, I'll take you out to eat my treat, you bothersome husband. Makumi said with a smile on her face. You could see the dry tears on her cheeks and Naruto gently kissed her. She went through so much because of him and he wanted to make it up to her. How about if I make it up to you, Haim? We can leave a shadow clone behind and head back to Konoha where I'll take you out to dinner. We can go somewhere nice. I know you've been putting up with me and my problems, so for rest of the day I'm going to treat you like a queen. Naruto said, making her smile. I'd love that, my baka husband. She giggled and hugged him close, refusing to let go. She didn't want to let go of him since she was comfy using him as a pillow. His heartbeat was perfect for her, it was so soothing and powerful. Back in Konoha. It had been 3 weeks since they arrived back from their vacation and about a week since Naruto took her on her spectacular date. He had kept his promise and she was treated like a queen. He did everything for her, from bringing her flowers and chocolates to taking her out to eat. They shared a dessert which made her blush. But the night was even better. He was passionate, he was gentle, and he made sure she was thoroughly pleased. Every inch of her body was worshipped and she loved it. Now here she was feeling sick to her stomach and she had not been having a good past 2 weeks. The first day back she started feeling nauseous and lightheaded and she had to sleep in. From there it started getting worse and worse. She had been throwing up and wasn't able to keep anything down. When this happened she sent a clone to find Naruto and cried when he arrived. She hated feeling weak. She was a goddamn A-rank kunoichi who was able to wound Itachi Uchiha, yet here she was crying and holding on to her husband because she was sick. Shikaku and Yoshino had decided that they would be taking their daughter to the hospital whether she wanted to or not. Yoshino felt bad for her daughter and all of the stress she had to go through when she was supposed to be relaxing. That's what vacations were about, weren't they not? I hope it's nothing serious, she thought to herself. Yoshino walked up to her daughter's bedroom and gently opened her door. Her daughter was laying down with her head on Naruto's chest while he was gently stroking his hands through her hair. He hadn't left her side since she started getting worse, for where he went so far as to request an indefinite time of leave until Mikumi had gotten better. He was patient and caring. Even when she had thrown up on him, he would wash her off first before cleaning himself off. He put her needs ahead of his. Yoshino was thankful for Naruto. If Mikumi needed something from him, he'd do what she asked of him straight away. No questions asked. She was grateful for her son-in-law. She and Kushina decide to postpone their wedding until Mikumi was better. They really are perfect for each other. How could I have been so blind? I've always wanted her to find love and didn't know that she already had feelings for him since they were 5. He's so patient and caring. I really need to have a spend the day together once she gets better, she said to herself as she was looking at the young couple. Now that she thought about it, Yoshino wondered why she never tried to pair up Naruto with her daughter. At least in the end it had worked out. Her daughter had found true love, just like she had when younger. Naruto, you should head home and get some sleep. My husband and I are about to take her to the hospital today since she has an appointment. We'll head over to your house afterwards to let you know what's wrong with her, plus I think she'd want her favorite pillow. Naruto nodded, making Mikumi groan, but she knew that if her mother said something, it was final. Mikumi and Naruto quickly shared a kiss. I'll make you some soup for when you come over, Naruto said before kissing his wife one last time, leaving via Shunshin. Yoshino smiled and walked up to her daughter. You guys really do love each other, don't you? She said, and Mikumi smiled weakly, still feeling a bit drowsy. Mikumi responded, I don't think even the word love begins to describe how much I care for him. Ka-chan, he's always been there for me through the thick and thin. When he almost died in my arms, it felt like a part of me was slowly dying. It's like I didn't know what to do if he left me. I was worried sick, and after I hunted him down, I never left his side. I knew right then and there that he was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, she said, making her mother smile. Well, let's get you washed up and head over to the hospital to see what's up with you. You don't want to die on your Naru-kun now, do you? She said with an amused smirk. She had her guesses, and she hoped that her daughter wasn't actually sick with a disease. As much as she berated them for having intercourse, she had joked that her daughter was probably pregnant, making Mikumi laugh at her attempts to cheer her up. She was hoping it was something that Tsunade could cure and not some incurable disease. If she lost her baby girl, she wouldn't know what to do, but most of all, if Naruto lost her, no one would know what to do. Konoha Hospital. They had just arrived at the hospital, and Yoshino could tell her husband was very nervous, judging from the way his eyes were shifting back and forth as he would pace. It was painfully obvious. After filling out a few documents, they were waiting for a nurse to arrive. After about 15 minutes of waiting, a young nurse came up to them. Are you the Nara family? She asked as they nodded. Follow me if you would, please, she said, as they got up and followed her to a room down the corridor. Once they were inside, the nurse had Mikumi sit down on the hospital bed. The nurse left, and after a few minutes later, Tsunade walked in. Why her of all the doctors? Mikumi mentally groaned out. Tsunade had been pissed when she found out that her godson was married, and to make matters worse, she had been quiet about it the entire time. Everyone knew that Naruto was her favorite and that she viewed him as her own son by taking time to train him and spoil him here and there. So Mrs. Nara, or is it Namikaze, what brings you in today? From your paperwork it says that you've been feeling sick the past 2.5 weeks, vomiting, nausea, lightheaded, and you haven't been able to keep anything down, is that correct? Tsunade asked while checking Mikumi over as she stopped at her stomach for a few seconds longer than she wanted. I'll be right back, Tsunade said quickly as she left the room to go pick up the printed results. She was right and her suspicions were correct. She already had an idea of who the baby daddy was. If it wasn't Naruto and the young girl had cheated, she would kill her. After a few minutes, she walked back in the room and had a serious look on her face while standing in front of her favorite godson's wife. So from the paperwork it looks like you don't have any life-threatening illness, but if I found out that you cheated on him and that baby isn't his, I'm going to make you suffer. Tsunade growled out. I'm pregnant. Makumi asked as she looked down at her stomach and put her stomach gently with a smile on her face. Shikaku's jaw dropped, his eyes widened as big as saucers. Yoshino grew a large grin on her face, she would be having a grandchild. Makumi wished she had a camera to capture her father's reaction, it was the funniest thing she had ever seen from the normally stoic Nara. It's not that he was rude like the Hyuga or the Uchiha clan were, he was just too lazy to form facial expressions. Makumi felt like she was on cloud 9, she would be having her precious child soon. The one she had been daydreaming about for the past few months after seeing how Naruto was with children. She started crying. Yoshino wondered why her daughter was crying. She thought her daughter would be happy about this. Mimi-chan, why are you crying? We could always She was quickly cut off by Makami. I'm not crying because I'm sad, Ka-chan. I'm crying because I'm so happy. These are tears of happiness. I'm so glad that me and Naru-kun are having a baby. I've always dreamed of this day. There's no way I would abort it, she said in a firm tone. Shikaku noticed how much that sounded like his wife. Good luck, Naruto. Hopefully you don't get a Yoshino 2.0, he thought as he was hit in the head by a pan that seemingly formed out of thin air. Do you want to explain what you were just thinking about, Shikaku-kun? Yoshino drawled his name out slowly in an icy tone. The man paled, but thankfully this was a special occasion as Yoshino's sour mood didn't last long. Honestly, he loved the woman, but wow, she was scary when she wanted to be. Shikaku and Yoshino wondered how the Namikaze family would take the news. Namikake estate. Naruto had just put the finishing touches to the soup he prepared for his wife while his mother holding her grandson. Mako Uzumaki Namikaze. Hana and Arashi decides to name him after Hana's father who died during the Kyuubi attack. He had Hana's brown hair and his blue eyes, and like every Inuzuka his eyes were slitted. He looked like Arashi but had Hana's nose, he was energetic like a typical Uzumaki and Inuzuka. Sochi-kun, you should get some sleep before Miku-chan and her parents come over. Kushina said while looking at her son and walking over to him and smelling the soup and smiling. She knew that Makumi had been sick and she was worried for her since Naruto loved her more than life itself, and if anything happened to her she wouldn't know how he'd react. I'll get some sleep when they come over, Ka-chan. I want to make sure Makumi has everything she needs to get better. My clones just bought new pillows, sheets, bed, I even bought the blankets she's been wanting. I want her to get better as soon as possible, Naruto said while getting the memories of his clones setting up the new memory foam mattress along with the pillows and blankets. Sochi, here, take Mako and I'll finish making the soup, Kushina said while handing Mako over to her son. Ka-chan, we're home, Narumi and Mito announced. They had just arrived from a mission and were happy to be home. Mito missed her girlfriend very much and Narumi was missing Gaara very much. Did you and Gaara not get enough alone time? Mito teased, making Narumi blush in embarrassment. Narumi and Gaara had been dating for about 2 months and she had to say that he was caring and found him adorable. Shish, shut up. Narumi blushed in embarrassment. Doesn't Anko need shove her tongue down your throat? Narumi teased back, making her twin blush in embarrassment. That's not the only place she needs to shove her tongue. Mito blushes while covering her mouth. If she hurts you, Mito, I'll skin her alive. I don't care if she was my student or not, no one breaks my baby's hearts. Kushina threatened, making the 3 of them sweat drop. Why didn't she tell Arashi this? The 3 kids thought to themselves. A knock could be heard at the door as Naruto handed Mako to an eager Mito, who started tickling her baby nephew, making him giggle out loud, while Naruto answered the door only to be tackled by a very teary-eyed Makumi. Makumi, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Naruto asked frantically while standing back up. Kushina, Mito and Narumi stopped what they were doing to hear the news, hoping that Makumi was going to be alright. I'm pregnant, Makumi shouted out with happiness in her voice as her eyes were shining brighter than ever before. She was happy. She had always wanted to have kids with Naruto. He would definitely become an amazing father. How? I mean, are you, who? Naruto stuttered out before passing out, making everyone chuckle and sweat drop at the fiery-haired Chunin. Wow, he never passed out before, not even when he took me out on our first date. I mean, I knew he'd be shocked, but I never expected him to ever pass out like this before. Makumi giggles before taking off her heels and lightly kicked Naruto with her foot. I'm gonna be a grandma again, Tte Ebane. Kushina said with tears in her eyes again. She was happy that her second son was having a family, and she couldn't help but wonder how Makumi's and Naruto's child would look like. Black hair with natural red highlights, maybe they'd have one gold eye and one ruby red eye, with a mixture between him and Naruto having a typical Nara laziness and intellect with the Uzumaki's energy. Oh yes, this child would definitely be an interesting mixture. We need to have a baby shower, Makumi. Narumi practically shouted out while jumping in joy and hugging her sister-in-law, making Mito nod in agreement. They weren't going to take no for an answer, no matter how bothersome it was for her. If they had to get Ino involved, they would get her involved. Bothersome. Can you help me get Naruto to his room too, San? I'm tired and want to cuddle with my pillow. Makumi yawned out while giving her mother-in-law and her two sister-in-laws a hug as she headed to her husband's bedroom, with Shikaku close behind. What a drag, he muttered out while Yoshino giggled and hugged Kushina. She was happy that she was going to be a grandma and couldn't help and raise her granddaughter or grandson to not be lazy like a typical Nara. He or she would be helpful and well-mannered around the house. She giggled at the thought. Makumi had walked into her husband's bedroom and smiled. He had bought a king-sized bed for them, 5 new pillows, and that's when she noticed the blanket. It was a beautiful black velvet with deers on it. She had remembered the first time she saw it. She instantly fell in love with the blanket and wanted to buy it, but didn't want to be looked at weird. She was a powerful kunoichi, and buying something like a blanket with deers on it would start rumors, yet her husband had bought it just for her. When she told him about it and watched as her father dropped Naruto on his bed and walked away before stopping at the door. If he hurts you or makes you cry in any way, princess, I'll make sure that regrets it. Shikaku said while giving his daughter a warm smile, making her blush in embarrassment at her dad for being overprotective of her. My flaming baka won't ever hurt me too, San, but if he does, I promise that I'll let you know first. She smiles at her father, who closed the door and walked away. Now for Operation Steal My Husband's Clothes and Never Give Them Back Jutsu. She giggled to himself while stripping down and grabbing one of his clean shirts and boxers while walking towards him and climbing under her new blanket while placing her head in her husband's chest and drifting off to sleep. Naruto has slowly woken up from what he thought was a dream and felt a weight on his chest. He didn't need to look down to know who it was. The only woman who would ever lay on his chest. That's when he remembered what she told him. She's pregnant. We're having a family, he thought to himself. He was happy and gently rubbed her back. He looked down at his wife and couldn't help but smile, seeing her wrapped up in her new blanket that he had bought her. The gentle smile on her face made him smile as he gently held her in his arms and drifted back to sleep. Maybe I should wake her up to annoy her, he thought to himself before pushing those thoughts away. He wouldn't ruin his wife's sleep even though he knew she was awake. I love you, Makumi. Makumi was awake but kept her eyes closed. She heard her husband and smiled. As soon as she was going back to sleep, her stomach growled, letting them know that she was hungry. She wondered if he'd get her some food since she was comfy in her new blanket and the soft bed was perfect. Can you bring me some food, Naru-kun? She asked, knowing that he'd say yes to her no matter the situation. Are you going to come downstairs too, or do you want to stay in bed? I know they're going to have questions for us, so it might be better if we just went downstairs together. Naruto said while placing gentle kisses on her face and lips. Carry me. She yawned out cutely. No matter where she was, whenever she was around Naruto, she'd always act like a girl with a crush and who wanted to be held and carried like a princess. Of course I'll carry you home, Naruto whispered while kissing her lips and gently lifting her up bridal style, making her squeal in excitement. She made sure to bring her new blanket with her. She wouldn't care what her family thought of it since they've seen her act girly before. She wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck and snuggled into his chest as she drifted off to sleep once again. Downstairs, Kushina, Yoshino and the twins were cooing over Mako as he giggled from the attention. Yoshino couldn't help until she could spoil her grandchild soon. Shikaku looked at his wife and gave a small smile. He knew that she was extremely excited to be a grandmother. No matter how many times she'd say she was too young to be a grandmother, he knew she was happy her childhood friend's son and her daughter were having a baby, and she was happy about it. They heard footsteps and looked up to see Naruto carrying a very smug Makumi, making them chuckle. she may be a Nara but she acted just like Yoshino when she wanted something. Naruto would never deny her anything, and even when he did it was for a very good reason. She loved her fiery-haired baka. Well, it looks like the lovebirds are finally awake. How was your nap, Mimi-chan? Yoshino asked while Naruto set her down on the couch, making her pout while he went and grabbed her some food. Hi everyone. Mikumi giggled while cuddling her new blanket with a smile on her face and relaxed. She had a new blanket. She stole more of her husband's clothing and he's grabbing her some food. Life was nice and she was enjoying it. She watched as Naruto walked back to her with a bowl of one of her favorite dishes that he made for her. Spanish mackerel onigiri chizuke. The hot kelp tea smelt delicious and she was drooling at the mouth, making him chuckle as she opened her mouth waiting for him to feed her. You want me to feed you? He asked with an amused smirk on his face, making her nod eagerly. This was something that had gone on more than once. Especially when he made her dessert, she'd demand that he feed her since it was too bothersome to feed herself when her husband could do it for her. Yes, now feed me, you bothersome husband, I'm hungry. She whined, making everyone chuckle at the married couple. They all knew how Mikumi acted around Naruto when in private or with family. She was different when out in public. Maybe she had an appearance to uphold since she was a high A rank kunoichi. What am I going to do with you, Miku-chan? Naruto said with a warm, gentle smile as he sat down next to his wife as he started feeding her. So Mikumi, are you excited to be a mother? It's a life-changing experience, one that you'll never regret. Kushina asked with a smile on her face while holding Mako. She and Sume had alternated who watched him since Arashi and Hana were out on a mission and wouldn't be returning for a few more days. Yes, I'm very excited. Naruto, I know, will be an amazing father. I've seen how he's with Hayate Jr. and he's so gentle and caring, teaching him how to read and write. He's going to be an amazing father and I can't wait to watch as we raise our child together. She smiled while Naruto kept feeding her. We need to celebrate. I know, let's go to a karaoke bar. Mito squealed in excitement. Of course Mikumi couldn't drink, but that was okay with them. They were going to have fun and to celebrate her pregnancy. That sounds like fun, and I can make you sing for me whenever I want. She said with a smirk while looking at her husband with joy in her eyes, making him roll them. Then it's settled, we're going to the karaoke bar tonight and I'll have everyone come along. Mito shouted while making clones to gather their friends. A few hours had passed by and they were having fun at the bar, just singing and having a good time. Mito had dragged Anko along, making everyone giggle at the couple. Mito was sitting on her lap due to her petiteness as they teased her. Everyone was singing and having a good time. That's when Mikumi had an idea to have Naruto sing her a song. She knew he'd make her feel special, and when she forced him on the stage while some girls were looking at him with hearts in their eyes, he looked her straight in the eyes and walked up to her as the melody began. Such soft, tender eyes were looking at her like she was the only girl in the world. Listen to Without You by Ashes Remain. Underneath the cold November sky. I'll wait for you. As the pages of my life roll by. I'll wait for you. I'm so desperate just to see your face. Meet me in this broken place. Hold me now. I need to feel you. Show me how to make it new again. There's no one I can run to. And nothing I could ever do. I'm nowhere if I'm here. Without you. Even if you take it all away. I'll wait for you. Even when the light begins to fade. I'll wait for you. I'm so desperate calling out your name. Meet me in this broken place. Hold me now. I need to feel you. Show me how to make it new again. There's no one I can run to. And nothing I could ever do. I'm nowhere if I'm here. I'm tired of running and wrestling with these angels. I lay down my life and I surrender. Hold me now. I need to feel you. Show me how to make it new again. There's no one I can run to. And nothing I could ever do. Hold me now. I need to feel you. Show me how to make it new again. There's no one I can run to. And nothing I could ever do. I'm nowhere if I'm here. Without you. The soothing sound of his voice made her heart melt. Those words were meant just for her. He'd never look at any other girl. He only had eyes for her and she only had eyes for him. Ino and a few other girls were jealous, but they were happy that they had each other. They complemented each other perfectly and no one would tear them apart. Mikumi had been blushing the entire time. She even kissed him so everyone knew he belonged to her and she belonged to him. She had even apologized to Choji for what her mother had done, and to make it up to him Naruto and her had set him up with a Yame. She was happy, she was truly, and she couldn't wait for what the future held for her and her family. Whoever said that having a baby would be easy? Naruto was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. He was constantly making sure Mikumi was comfortable no matter what. If she needed water, he'd get her water. If she was hungry, he'd bring her 6 different types of food. Most girls would find this to be amazing to be catered to, but Mikumi was getting annoyed. Yes, she loved getting spoiled, but her baka husband was being overly doting and it was annoying her. Using her shadow possession jutsu, she captured her husband. Naruto-kun, as much as I love you doing everything for me, I'm only 3 weeks pregnant, so that means I can still walk. She shouted before hitting him in the face with one of her heels before she felt one of her dear plushies hit her in the face. Stupid jutsu. Mikumi muttered to herself before canceling the jutsu and crawling in bed as she patted the empty spot next to her. Naruto couldn't help but look at his wife and smile. She was so dangerous but yet so gentle. It's one of the reasons why he fell in love with her. He smiled as she canceled the jutsu and crawled in bed and patted the empty side while looking at him. He knew she wanted her meat pillow to cuddle with and he wouldn't deny her that. Crawling in bed with her, he felt her lay her head on his chest as she slid his shirt off so she could feel his chest. You know, tomorrow we should buy some baby stuff like a crib, Naruto said while relaxing at his wife's touch, making him smile. He turned his head and noticed she was already asleep. He couldn't help but smile warmly at her. She was perfect for him. He could still remember the first time he met Mikumi. She was different and was the only person who would talk to him. He felt her shift in her sleep as she held him close like he was a toy plushie, and he couldn't help but smile as he kissed her forehead and hearing her mutter bothersome in her sleep. She was perfect in his opinion, from her laziness to her seriousness. He loved her and he would make sure no one would ever hurt her or their child ever. She was his light and he would keep it that way. Month 3. It's been 3 months since the young couple found out they were expecting a child. A lot had happened during those 3 months. Ino and their friends had been shocked to find out that Naruto and Mikumi were having a child together. She was slightly jealous of her childhood friend since she caught Naruto's attention at such a young age, but she was extremely happy for them both. Hinata had been saddened, but nonetheless, she was happy for them and congratulated them on their new relationship and soon-to-be family. I call planning the baby shower. Ino practically shouted out, making everyone cover their ears. Oh, she was going to make sure this baby shower went off without a hitch, and if anyone slacked off, she'd make them pay. Naruto looked at his wife in confusion, letting her have a say in this. She knew what she wanted, and since he didn't have a good idea of this, he was going to let her have his way and he'd let her drag him along with her plans or ideas. That's fine, Ino, but I want Mito and Narumi to help out as well to keep you in line. But the moment I feel like you're being too bothersome, I'm going to make sure you stop helping plan it. I don't want something big or flashy since it's bothersome, and I want to do a gender reveal. So when it comes to, I'll give Ka-chan the paper and you can get it from her. Mikumi said before grabbing a long piece of paper and handing it to Ino with outlines of how she wanted her baby shower to go. Wow, Mikumi, I didn't expect you to have this planned out with so much detail either. I mean, come on, do they have to be these exact measurements? Ino said while pouting, making Naruto chuckle at his wife's antics. Yes, they have to be the exact measure. She never got to finish as Naruto captured her lips, making her melt into his kiss. He slowly pulled away, making her eyes flutter. Keep the decorations and style, and no, the measurements don't have to be exact, Ino. Naruto said while keeping Mikumi distracted before Ino, Mito, and Narumi ran out before their childhood friend could retort to anything. Bothersome husband. Mikumi giggled out as she pressed her head against her chest. She smiled warmly at him. She was happy she was getting her dream. She was married to her childhood crush and they were having a child together. I'm hungry. Can we get some sushi please, Naruto? She asked while giving him the dreadful puppy eye jutsu. Letting out a defeated sigh, Naruto smiled at her and nodded. Yay, let's get some sushi Haim. Naruto said with a gentle smile on his face before kissing the top of her head as they left for sushi together. They never noticed the sad look on Hinata's face. She had been in love with Naruto since they were 8, but she was always nervous and shy around him. Now it looked like she'd never had the chance since Mikumi and Naruto were married and starting a family. They both looked extremely happy and perfect for each other. Month 5. Naruto, does this dress make me look fat? Mikumi asked while wearing an all-white dress that enhanced her beauty and made not only her eyes but she looked like she was glowing. She looked over at her husband who was choking on some water, after what she had just asked him. Naruto was shocked from her question, and unluckily for him he was drinking some water when she had just asked him if she had looked fat. Hime, you don't look fat, you look stunning. Besides, your baby bump isn't even that big yet, so I don't know why you're asking if you look fat. Naruto said while standing up and holding her from behind while she melted into his embrace. I know, but what if you leave me for some floozy who isn't pregnant, and then you divorce me and I have to raise our child by myself, and then you get married to that floozy? Makumi continued while muttering and pressing her index fingers together with a tear rolling down her cheek. Before she could continue, she felt her husband's lips on hers and she felt happiness and warmth. The kiss deepened as she smiled and turned around while wrapping her arms around his neck. I will always find you attractive, Hime. You know how much I love you. My love for you was solidified when you hunted him down. I will always love you, Makumi Namikaze. Nobody will ever steal me away from you. You have my heart, Hime, forever and always. Naruto said while placing kisses on her forehead and rubbing her pregnant stomach. Naruto took her hand and she giggled as she held him close. She was truly happy. This is what she always dreamed of since they were genin, and she was finally getting her dream. Most shinobi and kunoichi never got to experience something like this, and she knew it. Their lives were never promised they could die any day, so finding love was rare. Naruto, promise me that no matter what mission you go in, whether it or SS rank mission, that you'll come home to me and our baby. Please promise me this. I know that this is our lives and this is path we've chosen, but I can't imagine my life without you, so please promise me that you'll always come home to me. Makumi cried while holding onto Naruto tightly while tears streamed down her cheeks. Naruto looked down at his wife and noticed her sadness and couldn't help but give her a warm and gentle smile. I promise, Hime, no matter the mission rank, I promise to always come home to you. I will always be by your side through the good, bad and the ugly. I will always make sure to come home no matter what I have to do. Naruto whispered in her ear gently as she silently sobbed in his chest while holding onto him. I know you hate acting like you're weak, Makumi, but you know I'll accept you whether you're crying or not. If I have to take an entire nation hostage or kill a corrupt daimyo, I will do it if it means time coming home to my glowing wife and beautiful child. Naruto whispered, making her nod her head as she wiped her snot on his shirt, making him chuckle slightly. Now let's go, we have a doctor's appointment to go to, and Ka-chan can't wait for the baby shower. Makumi giggled as Naruto took his shirt off and grabbed a new one. Month 7. Nikumi couldn't help but smile as she laid her head in Naruto's lap. She's been having a fun, relaxing few months. She's been taking more naps and her husband has been making her whatever she wanted to eat whenever she wanted. Maybe she should get pregnant more often so Naruto can be at her beck and call and cater to her like the goddess she was. You're getting sleepy, aren't you, Hime? Naruto said with a small whisper, making her nod. Naruto knew this pregnancy was making her more tired, and he couldn't help but wonder if she was actually getting tired or if it was just her Nara genes using this as an excuse to take more naps. I think the baby wants to hear you sing again, Narukoi. Makumi said with a smile on her face while she curled in his lap and buried her face in his stomach. I think our daughter wants to hear you sing again, Hime. Naruto whispered as he brushed her hair again, while smiling warmly at her. When they found out they were having a daughter, they were beyond happy. Ino and his sisters had made the baby shower exactly how Makumi wanted it. Listen to When You Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss. It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I could never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. A touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. Now you say it best when you say nothing at all. All day long I can hear people talking out loud. But when you hold me near, you drown out the crowd. Old Mr. Webster could never define what's being said between your heart and mine. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. A touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. Now you say it best when you say nothing at all. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. A touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. Now you say it best when you say nothing at all. Makumi fished while rubbing her stomach as she felt her baby move to the sound of her voice. Throughout the entire song, she looked up at Naruto, never once taking her eyes off of him. Month 9. One more push, Makumi. Tsunade said while seeing the crown of the baby's head. I am pushing you old hag. Mikumi shouted while squeezing Naruto's hand hard, enough to make him try and pry it off. Get this baby out of me now, you old bat. She yelled as the sounds of crying could be heard in the room. Here's your beautiful baby girl. Tsunade said while watching Naruto cut the umbilical cord. She watched as Naruto walked over to his wife with their little bundle of joy in his arms. She's beautiful, Haim. Naruto said while walking to his wife and handing her the baby. He watched as her eyes started to swell with tears of joy. Their baby was truly precious. She had pure black hair with a red strand. They watched as she opened her eyes and noticed she had one gold and one red. She has your nose and ears. Naruto said while sitting in bed with his wife as he leaned his head on her shoulder. Their daughter was looking at them with wonder as she giggled when Mikumi kisses her forehead. Hey princess, I'm your mommy and this baka is your daddy. She whispered as a tear rolled down her cheek while looking at her bundle of joy. She's perfect. She cried out while their families walked in seeing their granddaughter and niece. What are you guys going to name her? Yoshino asked while taking her granddaughter in her arms while watching her daughter lay her head on her son-in-law's chest. It's been 2 months since Mikunki had given birth to their daughter Yumiko. Life had been interesting for them. Whenever she would cry, Mikumi would always push Naruto off the bed so he could take care of their child at night. It's not like she didn't want to, it's just Naruto lost a bet and it made her smile. He took care of the baby at night and set up crib and stuff like that, while she changed the baby's diaper and her child. It was a good system for each other and sometimes they would help each other out whether it was changing the diapers or setting something up. She still laughed when she remembered when Naruto first changed her diaper. He almost ran out of the house throwing up while there. She laughed at him while he was dry heaving. She found it funny that their little girl was able to take down an S-rank shinobi so easily with nothing but a smelly diaper. She was energetic, that was for sure, nothing like a typical Nara who was prone to laziness. She was going to be hyper and smart. Naruto-kun, do have the baby bag. Also don't forget that I have some pre-pumped milk in the fridge, can you please grab them for me? Mikumi asked while she dressed their daughter up in a deer onesie, as she smiled. She knew she was girly when it came to certain things like her daughter, or if Naruto was taking her on a date, she'd dress up girly and be treated like a queen. Yes I do, Haim, and I also grabbed the bottles too. I even grabbed some spare clothes and diapers along with a few of her toys. Naruto responded while packing up the baby bag. He walked up behind his wife and watched her dress their daughter up in a deer outfit. She smiled as she felt her husband's muscular arms wrap around her toned waist and smiled. Doesn't she look adorable as a doe? Mikunki asked with a giggle while leaning back in her husband's chest. She looked up at her husband with warm, gentle eyes as she kissed him. She felt him hold her closer and smile. Naruto-kun, I'll make sure to leave a summon with her, just I want her to be safe just in case anything happens while we're out on our mission. She whispered. She wanted to stay so badly. Her motherly instincts were telling her to just stay home and retire as a kunoichi and be a housewife. Naruto looked down at his wife and noticed the conflict in her eyes and smiled warmly. He knew she was worried and didn't blame her. They had just been assigned a mission and she didn't want to leave her child. Haim, how about you just stay home? I'll say you're not feeling well and have been throwing up. I know you don't want to leave Yumiko and I promise that I'll complete the mission as quickly as possible. Naruto whispered as she nodded her head. Why does life of a shinobi have to be so unpredictable and dangerous? I know we signed up for this, but I don't want our child to grow up without both or either of her parents. I want her to know who both of her parents are. Naru-kun. She whispered out while turning around and burying her face in his chest as she clung her husband's vest until her knuckles turned white. I promise to come home to you, Haim. Naruto whispered while kissing her forehead, trying to comfort her. Sing us a song, please. She asked while grabbing their daughter and sitting down across from him. Of course, Haim. He said while walking away and grabbing a guitar. Runnin' Home to You guitar version, by Grant Gustin. Can't say how the days will unfold. Can't change what the future may hold. But, I want you in it. Every hour, every minute. This world can race by far too fast. Hard to see while it's all flying past. But, it's clear now. When you're standing here now. I am meant to be wherever you are next to me. Mikumi looked at him with such warm and gentle eyes while their daughter looked at him and smiled warmly while listening to him sing. All I want to do. Is come running home to you. Come running home to you. And all my life I promise to. Keep running home to you. Keep running home to you. A memory of Naruto and her came to her mind. She was wearing a white summer dress while holding a picnic basket. They had a day off from their jobs as a guardians and were enjoying a picnic together. And I could see it. Right from the start. Right from the start. That you would be. Be my light in the dark. Light in the dark. Oh, you gave me no other choice. But to love you. She remembered as she and Naruto were slow dancing around their picnic, remembering as he stopped and dropped down to one knee. Her heart had skipped a beat that day while tears ran down her face. All I want to do is come running home to you. Come running home to you. And all my life I promise to keep running home to you. Keep running home. Home to you. A tear rolled down her cheeks. She held their daughter close and ran a hand through Naruto's hair as their foreheads touched. Can't say how the days will unfold. Can't change what the future may hold. But I want you in it. Every hour. Every minute. Yoshino looked at the family with a camera and took a picture. She couldn't help but smile at them. Naruto was the perfect son-in-law, husband and father. Soothing his family knowing how much her daughter was worrying. Song end. Promise you'll come home to me. She whispered while watching him stand up. He gently stood her up while wrapping his arms around her as she cried in his chest. Yoshino watched them and covered her mouth with her hand. She knew what her daughter was going through. She remembered how she was when both Shikamaru and Mikumi were born. She'd cry when Shikaku would leave for missions, how she was worried about his safety, always wondering if he'd make it home. I promise I'll come home, Mikumi. Naruto smiled as he whispered while gently kissing her lips before leaning down and kissing his daughter on her forehead, making her giggle. He noticed the worried look in Mikuna's eyes. I love you, Mikumi Nara Namikaze. How did the mission go to shit so fast? It was supposed to be a simple C-rank mission, but yet they were attacked by the Akatsuki and his teammates were dead. Naruto looked up and glared at both Hidan and Kakuzu. He was glad that he made his wife stay at home with their daughter. He didn't want her anywhere around this. Naruto looked out of the corner of his eye and saw an unconscious blonde. He was pissed that his team was caught in the crosshairs and they ended paying the price of it with their lives. He had to make sure he and the blonde were able to get out alive. He held his bleeding arm as some blood was dripping from the side of his head. He needed to get his teammates' bodies out of here so that their family could properly mourn them. Well, it looks like I'll be able to sacrifice the fourth Hokage's spawn to Jashin-sama. A silver-haired man said while placing the bladed scythe on his shoulder with a smirk on his face. He was going to sacrifice both the girl and the boy. Oh, Jashin-sama was going to extremely pleased with him. Your bounty will definitely be one to capture. You're worth 150 million ryo. With all that money I'll definitely be able to live off happily for a few years without any worry. Kakuzu said with a smirk on his face. He was silently seething. This damn brat cost him 3 of his hearts. He was going to take his heart as compensation for what this brat did to him. I was able to destroy 3 of Kakuzu hearts along with knowing how Hidan's jutsu works. All I have to do is cancel the pentagram on the floor. Damn, facing the zombie brothers is truly bothersome. Naruto thought to himself as he was thinking of putting his ring on to let Mikumi know to send back up, but thought against it. Hidan and Kakuzu watched as Naruto jumped back and went through some hand seals. Summoning jutsu. Naruto yelled out as a lion the size of a house appeared under him. Naruto, why do you look like shit? Did you piss off my summoner? The lion while assessing the situation with an analytical eye. No, I didn't piss her off, but I'm in a bit of bind here and I need your help. I want you to take the blonde girl back to Konoha. Don't tell them that she's Kumo's Jinchuriki. I know Danzo will be trying to place a seal on her if they find out. Naruto said while Nala picked up the unconscious blonde with her tail. I'll be seeing you soon, Naruto. Don't fail us. She said while she took off at a blinding speed. Ha 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 ha, you lost your chance to escape, brat, now I'm going to kill you. Hidan yelled out as he rushed forward, not noticing a red and white Rasengan forming in Naruto's hand. Naruto smirked knowing that the Hidan would rush in thanks to his arrogance. He was trying to bait the idiot so he could make a mistake. Hidan smirked as he brought his scythe down towards the fiery-haired teen. He didn't notice the smirk as Naruto disappeared in a yellow and red flash, before pain erupted throughout his entire body. Nova style. Disintegrating Rasengan. Naruto yelled before slamming the Rasengan in the middle of Hidan's back. Makumi smiles as she was walking through the village with her daughter. She couldn't help but feel worried as something was bothering her, like maybe Naruto wasn't alright. Please come back home to me, Naruto-kun. She thought to herself as she held her sleeping daughter in her arms. A cloud of smoke appeared next to Makumi when she noticed her personal summon with a blonde girl on her back. Nala, what are you doing here and where's Naruto-kun? Is he okay? Makumi asked with a worried tone as tears began to develop in the corner of her eyes. So this is your new cub. She'll definitely become powerful. Let's hope she takes after you in terms of brains. The lion chuckled. Even though Naruto was their first summoner ever, Nala loved Makumi more than Naruto. Her ferocious behavior and pride was what made Nala want to become her personal summon. Nala, please, where's Naruto-kun? She asked with a tear running down her cheek. He's fine, cub. Trust me, he may act like an idiot sometimes, but we both know that he's not going to lose easily. I need to get the blonde girl to the hospital. Would you like to accompany me? The lion asked while smelling the young cub. Yes, I'll escort you, Nala. She smiled as she wiped away her tear, as they started walking towards the hospital together. What's the young cub's name? She asked while people were staring at them in fear. She noticed some people greeting Makumi and noticed some jealous stares. Yumiko, but Naru-kun and I call her Yumi-chan. She smiled at her daughter, hoping she'd be able to grow up with both of her parents. She smiled as she greeted some of the people as they looked at her. She wanted to ask about her husband's mission but was afraid of finding out the answer. She knew that if he put his ring on, she'd be rushing to his side immediately. Nothing would stop her, maybe her daughter, but she'd bring her along. Please come home, Naruto-kun. He's fine, cub. Trust me, he may act like an idiot sometimes, but we both know that he's not going to lose easily. I need to get the blonde girl to the hospital. Would you like to accompany me? The lion asked while smelling the young cub. Yes, I'll escort you, Nala. She smiled as she wiped away her tear, as they started walking towards the hospital together. What's the young cub's name? She asked while people were staring at them in fear. She noticed some people greeting Makumi and noticed some jealous stares. Yumiko, but Naru-kun and I call her Yumi-chan. She smiled at her daughter, hoping she'd be able to grow up with both of her parents. She smiled as she greeted some of the people as they looked at her. She wanted to ask about her husband's mission but was afraid of finding out the answer. She knew that if he put his ring on, she'd be rushing to his side immediately. Nothing would stop her, maybe her daughter, but she'd bring her along. Please come home, Naruto-kun. Ha ha ha, you really think that you can easily forgive your family? After everything they put you through, you decided to forgive them all because you came close to death. A voice said as Naruto struggles to walk before sliding down a tree. He looked over and saw the village gates about 1.5 miles away. He was so close, but this voice was distracting. His wounds started to bleed again. He needed to get back to the village now. Whoever you are, shut the up. You don't know anything about me or my life. He mentally shouted. Oh, I know all about you, since I'm the one thing you're always trying to repress. You say that you forgave your family, but I know the truth. You hate them so much that it's pitiful. The voice shouted with laughter. Naruto didn't know what to say. Maybe he was hallucinating from being badly injured, or maybe it was because of the blood loss that he was hearing voices. Who are you? He asked. Did he get part of the QB sealed inside of him as well but was never told? I'm not the damn fox, if that's what you're wondering. No, I'm something much better, it replied with a chuckle. Haven't you ever wondered why you still held on to your hatred for your family? It's because I'm the one causing it. I loved it when you hated them before you left. The way you just blew them off made me happy. But yet you pretended to act like you loved them and it made me sick. The voice shouted. Now rest. You'll be in the village soon. It whispered. It's. Yuto. Ama. Hi. Bleeding. Nt. Quick. Ntact. Age. Ama. Was all Naruto heard before falling into unconsciousness. Makumi was having an interesting day. She was slightly surprised to see the Kumo Kunoichi has been awake after a few hours with the help of Tsunade. But that's not what made her day interesting. No, it had to do with the fact that her daughter had thrown up all over said bed-ridden Kunoichi's face. Sorry about Yumi-chan. I guess she didn't like the food I gave her earlier. Makumi said with a hint of amusement in her voice as she looked at Yugito, before offering her some baby wipes. I didn't know Konoha's shadow princess had a child to begin with. Yugito said while taking the wipes and cleaning off her face. Yugito was on edge. She knew that one bad move and Mikumi would easily kill her. She heard the stories of her and knew that she almost killed Itachi. Let's just say that no one outside of the village knows about her and if anything were to happen to her. She replied as her shadow wrapped around Yugito's throat. Her eyes widened in fear as she felt the shadow slowly choking her as she gripped her throat and tried clawing at it, trying to get some precious air. I'm glad we've came to an understanding. Honestly, I didn't want to bring my daughter here, but I don't trust very many people with my daughter. Mikumi replied as she cancelled her jutsu and sat down on the chair in the room. So who's the father? Or do you not know who he is? Yugito asked while trying to figure out who the child's father was. If she was able to figure it out, then maybe, just maybe, she could kill her and take the child with her as she made her escape. Sadly, she didn't know that Mikumi had caught on to her line of thinking. Let's just say that if you were able to kill me and take my daughter with you, not only would you have the entire Nara clan after you, but the Hokage, her tempered grandmother, her aunts and uncles, as well as the entire Inuzuka clan and her father would be after you, and I would think that Kumo wouldn't like to start a war with Suna, Kiri and Konoha. Let's not forget that Tsunade and Jiraiya would personally see to torturing you until you were begging for your death. She finished with a sadistic smirk on her face as Yugito's face went pale. She looked at her and saw what she realized was her death in the most slow and gruesome ways possible. That alone gave her the information that she needed. Naruto Namikaze Konoha's Kai no Ryan, Blood Lion, was the child's father. To try and kidnap their child would be considered suicide. She was mentally beating herself up over thinking of such a thing. This was the granddaughter of the Yellow Flash and the Red Hot Habanero. The Red Flash Arashi, and the Jinchuriki princesses Mito and Narumi were their uncle and aunts. A knock on the door brought her out of her stupor as she saw a man with two scars on his face walked in. His lazy demeanor gave it away. This was Shikaku Nara, the strategist king. During the Third Great War, he was able to come up with attacks and defenses on the fly, causing the most damage without having to lose his people under his command. Tsunade said, "You'd be in here, Mikumi." He yawned out in boredom. Why did his wife send him to the hospital again? Oh yay, something about how their granddaughter was too young to see a beaten kunoichi or something like that. He couldn't remember since he had been taking a nap when he was being told what to do. I take it you're here to pick up Yumiko? His daughter asked before she stood up and handed her to her father. She smiled when she saw her daughter slap her palm in his face with an uncontrollable giggle. She's definitely Naruto's daughter, Shikaku said with a sweat drop as Yumiko tried slapping his face again while giggling. I'll see you later too, San. I'm talking to our bed-ridden Gu. Mikunki never got to finish as she was cut off by someone shouting. We need help now. A random Junin shouted frantically. Stop sitting on your asses and get Naruto-sama a room now. Yelled out a Chunin. Mikumi froze when she heard those words. Her husband was back in the village, but he needed a room. How bad could it be that he needed two people shouting? What's with all the yell? Tsunade started as she stopped her yelling when she saw her godson. Get me Shizune and Sakura immediately. Tell them to meet me in the operating room immediately. She shouted out as the Junin and Chunin ran off to find both Shizune and Sakura. San, take Yumiko home now. She shouted as she ran off to the operating room to see what the condition her husband was in. 6 hours had passed as Mikunki waited to hear any news about her husband. The nurse had told her that he had been suffering from internal bleeding. He had 5 cracked ribs, his shoulder was broken along with his right arm, and he had a broken ankle and a hairline fracture on his femur. But the biggest injury was the 3 diagonal wounds on his chest. They were deep enough to damage the scar tissue, and caused him to lose a good amount of blood. Everyone was shocked about his state, and what shocked them the most was that he was able to make his way back to the village before collapsing from exhaustion. The team that found him were returning from a mission, and she had been told if they weren't returning from their mission then he would have died from blood loss. I should have gone with him. If I was with him he wouldn't be like this. She thought to herself as she wiped away some of her tears before turning to the wall and punching it hard enough to cause it to crack. As troublesome as it is to see you like this, sis, you need to calm down. You're not doing anyone any favors if you're wallowing in what ifs. Shikamaru said as he put his hand on her shoulder trying to comfort her. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes before hugging her brother as she cried in his chest. I should have gone with him. B, but I wasn't ready and he knew it, so he had me stay home with Yumi-chan. If only I had been stronger, he wouldn't be in the hospital right now. She shouted in his chest as she hit his chest repeatedly. Shish, it's okay. Don't blame yourself, it's not your fault, none of this was your fault. We don't know what happened on his mission. For all we know, he might have fought against someone that caught him off guard. Shikamaru replied while trying to reassure his twin sister. Naruto, you sure are troublesome. When you pull through, I expect you to let me watch clouds in peace and to never change Yumiko's diapers ever again. He thought to himself before taking his sister and sitting her down on the bench. Ah, it looks like you're back. Tell me, how does it feel to be at death's door again? The voice spoke as Naruto looked around for it. How about you come out and show me who the you are, you bastard? He shouted in annoyance. He was done with these games. Haha, you're getting annoyed, aren't you? How would it feel if your daughter grew up without her father? Should I show you that life? Or what about your wife? How would she deal with your death? I know you wouldn't care about your family since you've been secretly hating them for so long, but pretend to love them. Where the air, you? Naruto shouted. Behind you.